Elder Jing silently decided in his heart that the original fourth round of the test was cancelled. Wasn't this Yun Chuzhou willing to play? Then let's play a big game. If the other contestants knew that the suffering they suffered later was completely caused by Yun Chuzhou, they would probably wish they could strangle some troublemaker to death. Inside the array, Yun Chuzhou finally found Jin Ji. Jin Ji was not much better than Yi Bingyu. She had already died many times. She could not even tell if she was dead or alive. When she opened her eyes again, she actually saw Yun Chuzhou standing in front of her. She really thought she had seen a ghost. Little Jiu. Am I hallucinating? Jin Ji rubbed her eyes. Beauty Jin Ji, if you are distracted again, you will die again. Yun Chuzhou said with a cheeky smile. Only then did Jin Ji believe that it was really Yun Chuzhou who came to help. With the help of Yun Chuzhou and the 5 gold-spotted hurricane leopards, it took an hour to kill the 5 demon beasts in this area. Jin Ji was teleported out before she could ask anything. Yi Bingyu was so excited when she saw Jin Ji that she almost burst into tears. It was because she was really embarrassed. Those people looked at her as if she was a monster. In fact, she was also very confused. If she had known that it would be so awkward if she came out so early, she would have asked Yun Chuzhou to spare a demonic beast for her to kill time. Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu talked about what happened and then waited anxiously for Xue Wuji and Yun Chuzhou. Inside the array formation, Xue Wuji continued to ride Baojiu in various areas. Time was running out, and some people had already killed 3 demonic beasts. The 5 gold-spotted hurricane leopards even wanted to die. They had agreed to see the colorful world, but why did they have to be either thugs or mounts? It was as if their legs had become thinner. It had to be said that Yun Chuzhou's luck was not bad. After passing through hundreds of areas, she actually met Xue Wuji. Xue Wuji was in a better condition than Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu. He had already killed a demonic beast. After all, the mutated wind spirit root was not a joke. Of course, it was inevitable that he would die a few times. Xue Wuji was not too surprised to see Yun Chuzhou. After all, he had already seen this fellow's abnormal performance countless times. Little sister Jiu, quick, come over and help. These damn things are really too difficult to deal with. Xue Wuji said as he attacked with his spiritual power skull. Yun Chuzhou smiled as she called out to the 4 demonic beasts for a feast of talismans. Then, she asked the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards to help. 15 minutes later, the 4 demonic beasts died unwillingly. A white light flashed, and Xue Wuji was also teleported out. Only Yun Chuzhou and the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards were left in the area, staring at each other. Sigh. I have no choice. I can only leave after I kill all of you. I still can't bear it. How about this, if you have any wishes, I will try my best to fulfill them. Yun Chuzhou said to the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards. The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards lowered their heads and did not make a sound. Initially, they thought that their existence was to kill the candidates in the region. However, after witnessing more scenes, they felt that life was so precious. What could be more important than life? However, they had already established a temporary contract with the little girl in front of them. They could only watch as they waited for their deaths. Yun Chuzhou looked at the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards and felt a little awkward. No matter what, they had fought side by side before. It did not seem like they were loyal to each other. Yun Chuzhou furrowed her brows. If these golden-spotted hurricane leopards were demonic beasts, it would be fine. She could just bring them out and think of a way. However, they were only array beasts created by the array formation. Once they left the array formation, they would die. Therefore, even if Yun Chuzhou didn't kill them, they would die sooner or later. Yun Chuzhou let out a long sigh. Sigh. You and I both know that this is a dead end. How about this? Before you die, I will give you a name. In that case, you can be considered to have left a mark. The eyes of the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards shone with desire. Even if they could not live on, having a name was still good. Among the tens of thousands of array beasts, only they had a name. Just thinking about it was very impressive. The few leopards in Yunchujia's spiritual beast pouch looked at each other. These stupid leopards would regret it. They would definitely regret it. What good name could they come up with if they gave it a useless name? Yunchujio racked her brains for a long time and even pulled out a few strands of her hair. Then, she said, I've thought it through. You guys will be called Leopard 1, Leopard 2, Leopard 3, Leopard 4, and Leopard 5. What do you think? Do you think it's very high-end and classy? The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards looked at Yunchujio helplessly. Right now, they only had one thought: they wanted to die as soon as possible. Yunchujio coughed a few times guiltily. Don't think that this name is not good just because it's simple. The so-called simplest is the most complicated. This is dialectics, just like my name, Chujio. Doesn't it feel very ordinary? But I think it's very high class. A name is just like a person's clothes. Whether it looks good or not depends on who wears it. The 5 gold-spotted hurricane leopards glanced at her and continued to beg for quick death. Yunchujio felt a great blow. Was the name she had chosen really that bad? Xiao Hei, Xiao Hong, Xiao Mogu, weren't they pretty? The few in the spiritual beast bag expressed their feelings silently with 2 tears in their eyes. Everything was said in silence. Yunchujio saw that the 5 gold-spotted hurricane leopards had nothing to live for. She gritted her teeth. Sigh, I have no choice. I'm going out. I can only end your little lives. Before I die, I'll send you a poem. Some of the leopard people are alive, but it's already dead. Some of the leopards are dead, but it's still alive. Yunchujio read the poem while gnashing her teeth. She was about to make a move, but unfortunately, she still couldn't bring herself to do it. The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards looked at each other. There was a trace of warmth in their hearts. No matter what, this little human girl still had a conscience. Since she couldn't bear to make a move, they could just kill themselves. They would die sooner or later anyway. Therefore, the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards slapped each other with their claws, and all of them fell to the ground and died. Although she knew that the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards would die sooner or later, Yunchujio still felt a little bitter when she saw them commit suicide. Just when Yunchujio was feeling sad, a white light flashed in front of her eyes. When she regained her sight, she was already in the square. There were only a few people in the square. When Xue Wuji and the other 2 saw Yunchujio, they all gathered around her. Yunchujio adjusted her mood and began to chat and laugh with the 3 of them. As time passed, more and more candidates were teleported to the square. Among them were some who were angered to death by Yunchujio. All of them glared at Yunchujio. Some people directly questioned, Yunchujio, why are you able to move around in different areas? Did you cheat? Yunchujio looked at him as if he was an idiot. Which eye of yours saw me cheating? Did the rules say that I'm not allowed to move around? I'm willing to move around. What do you care? The person who asked the question was rendered speechless by a certain Zhou's rebuke. Indeed, the rules did not forbid them from going to other areas. Thus, everyone could only express their dissatisfaction with angry looks. Of course, there was also some unexplainable jealousy in this dissatisfaction. In another square, a few elders gathered together to discuss whether Yunchujio and the other 3 could pass the test. An elder said, not only did Yunchujio take advantage of the situation, she also took advantage of the loopholes in the rules and disrupted the order of the test. Such a person cannot be admitted. That makes sense. The other 3 people only managed to kill 5 demonic beasts with Yun Chujia's help. They cannot be considered to have passed. Elder Yuan curled his lips and said, all right. What's the point of saying so much? I'm just asking you, did the little girl break the rules? If she didn't break the rules, why did she cancel her test results? If you want to blame someone, it's because the rules you set aren't perfect. If you had said in advance that you weren't allowed to wander around, wouldn't the little girl have obediently passed the test? Elder Yuan usually had a mischievous personality and had a fiery temper. Although the few elders didn't agree with what he said, they didn't dare to openly go against him. Moreover, he was in charge of the 3rd round of the test. Hence, everyone did not say anything and tacitly agreed with Elder Yuan's opinion. As for Yun Chujio, she was not worried at all. If the Primordial Chaos sect really wanted to cancel their results, she was prepared to make a big fuss. No matter what, she had connections. Master Bailey had eaten her coral fruit. Could it be that he ate it for free? Finally, 4 hours later, the 5,000 participants were full. The rest of the participants were eliminated. After 3 rounds of testing, everyone was exhausted physically and mentally, and they were not confident about the upcoming test. The Primordial Chaos sect's test was very abnormal. It was not a fixed number of rounds, but the final goal was to select 500 disciples. Therefore, there was probably still some trouble. Just as everyone was feeling uneasy, the voice that had notified them earlier said, "Congratulations on passing the 3 rounds of testing. Now, prepare for the 4th round of testing." Yun Chujio heard the sound of gnashing teeth from the voice. She understood a little. It was probably because she had messed up the 3rd round of the test, so she became angry out of embarrassment. A white light flashed in front of her eyes. When Yun Chujio regained her sight, she realized that there were several mines that were more than 100 feet tall in front of her. Each mountain had a number and a name. Yun Chujio's number and name were marked on the mines in front of her. Yun Chujio touched her chin. What was going on? Were they supposed to mine? Was the Hun Yuan sect so stingy that they treated these candidates as laborers? Just as Yun Chujio's thoughts were running wild, she heard the person from before gloating, "Your mission is to finish mining the mine in front of you and pass the test for the top 3,000. In addition, you are not allowed to use talismans. Those who use talismans will be eliminated immediately." Fuck. What kind of joke was this? Although the mine was not big, if they were to rely on manual mining, they would not be able to finish it in less than a month. Were they planning to tire them to death? At this time, several pickaxes for mining appeared out of thin air on the ground. The person continued, "Don't think that just mining is enough. There are more surprises waiting for you. I wish you good luck." Yun Chujio pursed her lips. Only a fool would obediently mine. Even if she did not use the talisman, there must be a faster way. There was no rush. She would sleep first. Due to Yun Chujio's abnormal performance in the 3rd round, this time, she was the only one sleeping soundly on the number 9 shadow stone. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect, this girl's heart was really big. Didn't she see that everyone else was working hard at mining? This guy was actually sleeping soundly here. Could it be that she had some evil idea? Everyone shook their heads. Other than the talisman, there should be no other way to speed up the mining speed. Yun Chujio must have been tired from jumping just now, which was why she was sleeping. Shui Wuji and the other 2's mines were adjacent to Yun Chujio's mines. Seeing that Yun Chujio was sleeping soundly, the 3 of them did not disturb her. Instead, they looked around. After looking around, they came to a shocking fact: the mines of the 4 of them were obviously bigger than the others, especially Yun Chujio's mine. It was more than 1/3 bigger than the others. This was too much of a bully. Yun Chujio woke up and stretched. Shui Wuji and the other 2 told her what they had seen. Yun Chujio immediately jumped up and looked around. It was just as Xue Wuji and the others had said. Yun Chujio's eyes flickered a few times, but she didn't say anything. It was useless to say anything now. It wasn't too late for little Jiao to take revenge. She would find the culprit sooner or later to take revenge. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect also noticed this problem. Many people gloated over Yun Chujio's misfortune. Wasn't that Yun Chujio able to jump around? Let's see how she can jump this time. A few elders were also watching. Elder Yuan glared at Elder Jing with dissatisfaction. This is your masterpiece, right? I didn't expect you to be so petty. Elder Jing laughed dryly. This is just a lesson for them. Besides, their stamina is better than others. This is also for the sake of fairness. Elder Yuan pursed his lips. No matter how strong that little girl is, can she withstand the extra third of the mine? If that little girl passes the test, then so be it. But if she is really lacking in the final third of the mine, then I'm not done with you. Elder Jing laughed and didn't say anything. He felt that even without the extra third of the mine, Yun Chujio wouldn't be able to pass the test. After all, the higher the spiritual power, the more efficient the miners would be. Yun Chujio and the other three had much lower spiritual power than the others, so they would definitely be eliminated. Seeing that Yun Chujio didn't say anything, Xue Wuji said, "Little sister Jiao, no matter what, let's start digging. What if our mine is easier to dig than the others?" He didn't believe Xue Wuji himself. It would be good if it wasn't harder to dig than the others. You guys dig first. I'll rest for a while. Yun Chujio took out the universal tent and went inside. Xue Wuji and the other two looked at each other and then went to dig the mine. Everyone was busy mining the ores when they suddenly felt that the weather was extremely hot. They looked up and almost died from anger. They saw 3 suns in the sky. Were they planning to roast them into jerky? Yun Chujio and the other 3 did not mind. It would be better if they were hotter. It would be good for them to catch up with the progress. Everyone was suffering terribly. They had to mine while they had to endure the heat. They really wanted to die. After the people from the Chaos Origin sect saw this, they had recovered from the shock of Yun Chujio. These rookies should be in such a sorry state. Otherwise, it would appear that they were useless in the past. However, when they saw the situation on the number 9 shadow stone, they immediately felt stifled. They saw that the little girl dug a hole in the mine, and some clear water flowed down from it from time to time. Beside it, she even wrote 3 crooked words with cinnabar, water curtain cave. Through the water curtain, they could see that the girl was chewing on the spirit fruit while reading her storybook. She was very carefree. Some people snorted coldly and said, "I think that Yun Chujio knew that no matter how she dug, she would be eliminated, so she just gave up." That makes sense. She has already given up. The other 3 are also much slower than the others, so they will definitely be eliminated. Elder Yuan could not help but feel a little anxious. This little girl seemed to be quite smart, but why was she being silly now? You should just mine, shouldn't you mine less and less? Everyone was exposed to the sun for 6 days, and they all felt like they were about to turn into dried meat. Suddenly, the weather became cool. When they looked up, they saw that the 2 extra suns in the sky had disappeared. Everyone could not help but rejoice. Yun Chujio curled her lips. A bunch of idiots. According to the dark nature of the person who wrote the question, what followed was definitely a freezing weather. Yun Chujio put away the water at the top of the cave, then called Xue Wuji and the other 2 into the cave. She also stuffed a few quilts at the entrance of the cave. Xue Wuji and the other 2 were puzzled. "Little Jiao, what are you doing? Are you afraid that others will hear us?" Yun Chujio pointed outside. "The weather will definitely change in a while. If you don't want to freeze into dogs, stay here with me. As for mining, well, think of another way. Shui Wuji and the other two were skeptical. They looked outside through the gaps in the quilts. When the rest of the group saw the actions of Yun Chuzhou and the other two, they burst into laughter. Were the four of them stupid? It was not easy for them to cool down, but they actually hid in the hole and even used the blanket to block the hole. Were they trying to hatch an egg inside? Just as everyone was mocking them, the sky suddenly turned dark. Looking up, they saw that the sun was covered by thick dark clouds, and a northern wind was blowing. In the blink of an eye, the temperature dropped drastically, and a strong wind mixed with snowflakes drifted down. In less than 15 minutes, the snow on the ground was already as deep as half a person. As Yun Chuzhou had said, everyone was about to freeze into dogs. Although they did not lack food and drinks in their storage rings, they did not have firewood, so they could not light a bonfire. They could only follow Yun Chuzhiou's example and dig out a mine to hide from the wind and snow. At this moment, they had to admit that it was not Yun Chuzhiou's group of four who had a lump in their head, but them. At this moment, a certain Zhou's mine was as warm as spring. The bonfire was burning fiercely. The four of them were happily eating a small hot pot. It was so comfortable. Cough, cough. It was still a hot pot made by an alchemy furnace. The same formula, the same taste. Due to the cotton blanket blocking the entrance of the cave, the members of the Chaos Origins sect could not see what was happening inside the cave. They thought that Yun Chuzhou and the other three must have been extremely cold inside, and the anger in their hearts finally dissipated a little. However, when Yun Chuzhou occasionally opened the gap of the cotton blanket to let in some air, everyone saw that the four people who were eating hot pot inside suffered another 10,000 points of damage. That Yun Chuzhou was simply inhuman. Why would she bring so much firewood with her? Could it be that she was a woodcutter in the past? She actually brought hot pot with her. What a good-for-nothing. Wait, that didn't seem to be a hot pot, damn. It was actually an alchemy furnace. They actually used an alchemy furnace as a hot pot. Didn't they say that alchemists treasured their own alchemy furnace? Why would they waste the alchemy furnace like this? In their anger, everyone felt a little hungry. They also wanted to eat hot pot. A few days later, the snowstorm finally stopped, but the ground was full of water. If they wanted to dig for ore, they could only stand in the water and dig. It was simply unbearable. Of course, Yun Chuzhou and the other two were not included in the bitter situation. Shui Wuji and the other two originally wanted to go out and dig for ore, but they were stopped by Yun Chuzhiou's words. You guys better save your strength. Think about it carefully. Even if you dig with all your might, can you dig past the others? Moreover, our mine is bigger than others. Jin Ji sighed. Then what do you think we should do? Don't tell me we should just give up. We've already passed 3 rounds of tests. Don't tell me we should just give up. Of course we won't give up. I definitely want to enter the Primordial Chaos sect. Don't worry, they'll think of a way. If we can't think of a way, they'll go look for Old Man Bai Li. Their Primordial Chaos sect's test is unfair, and he, as the sect leader, is to blame. If he doesn't make an exception to accept us, he'll go look for Old Man Xia Ho at the Primordial Chaos sect. He'll definitely think of a way to convince Old Man Xia Ho to take us in. Therefore, you should put your hearts into your stomachs. It doesn't matter if you don't mind this lousy mine. Yun Chuzhiou's eyes were full of craftiness. Shui Wuji and the other two reacted for a while before they realized that the Old Man Bai Li and Old Man Xia Ho that Yun Chuzhiou mentioned were the sect masters of the Primordial Chaos sect and the Killing sect. They felt that Yun Chuzhiou's words were somewhat unreliable. How could the sect masters of 2 super sects be fooled by her? However, perhaps they were used to listening to Yun Chuzhiou's arrangements, so the 3 of them did not go out to continue mining. After all, standing in the water to mine was simply inhuman torture. Although the people outside could store the flood into their storage rings, they did not trust each other. They were afraid that they would be at a disadvantage. After all, the water was flowing, and there was no way to only collect the water in their own area. Therefore, no one took any action to collect the water and let the water recede slowly. After a few days, the water finally receded. Before the people could catch their breath, they heard someone exclaim, "Giant or devouring ant." "It's a giant or devouring ant." A certain Jiu, who was sitting on the recliner, opened her eyes lazily. She saw a black mass of ants rapidly approaching the mine in the distance. She stood up and saw that it was indeed a giant or devouring ant. This type of giant or devouring ant was about a foot long and lived in groups of demonic insects. There was a queen ant in every colony, and its composition was similar to that of a spirit bee. Although the giant or devouring ant also ate other things, its favorite food was spirit ores. Although the level of spirit energy of this type of giant or devouring ant was not very high, it could not withstand the large number. Moreover, they could also spray out a kind of formic acid. When a person touched it, they would feel extremely itchy, and even fester. Therefore, cultivators would rather encounter some high-level demon beasts than these swarms of demon insects. When everyone saw a large group of giant or devouring ants coming over, they hurriedly stopped mining and began to face the enemy. The reason why everyone was so nervous was because they were afraid that if the giant or devouring ants ate all the ores, they would not be able to pass the test. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and lazily sat back on the recliner. Anyway, those idiots would stop her, so she continued to bask in the sun. Jin Ji asked in a low voice, "Little Jiu, aren't we going to help? There are so many people. There's no need for the four of us. Let's just watch the show. What if they chase the ant colony to our place?" Jin Ji frowned worriedly. "If they really do that, that's not bad. Let's wait and see. There's no rush. At worst, well, just let them gnaw on the mine," Yun Chujio said indifferently. Jin Ji and the other two could not figure out what Yun Chujio was thinking, so they could only stretch their necks to watch the battle ahead. Although the ant colony was not small, there were about 5,000 participants, so the ant colony did not gain any advantage. After a portion of them were killed or injured, they fled in a panic. Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief and continue to dig the mine. Unexpectedly, after only 2 hours, the ant colony returned. Moreover, the number of ants had returned to its previous size, and they were quickly crawling towards the mine. Everyone had no choice but to meet the ant colony again. Then, the ant colony retreated again. After 2 hours, the ant colony attacked again. Everyone was very annoyed by the ant colony. They had clearly killed many of them, but when the ant colony reappeared, it actually returned to its original size. Not to mention that this endless killing had delayed the mining. They didn't even have time to rest. It was really too terrible. While everyone was frustrated, they saw Yun Chujio and the other 3 people in the corner who were leisurely enjoying themselves. They were here desperately resisting the giant or devouring ants, but those 4 people actually didn't come over to help. It was really detestable. Therefore, everyone had a tacit understanding and began to drive the ant colony toward Yun Chujio and the other 3. It was also good to let these giant or devouring ants eat up Yun Chujio and the other 3's mines first. This way, they could buy a lot of time for them. After Jin Ji discovered the intentions of those people, she was both anxious and angry. "Little Jiu, if they really drove the ant colony to our place, what should we do?" Yun Chujio stood up and curled the corners of her lips. Then, she stretched her neck and shouted, "Hurry up and get rid of the ant colony. Otherwise, I won't hold back." When the other contestants heard Yun Chujio's shout, they all laughed and fell back. Was there something wrong with this Yun Chujio's head? They were the ones who rushed to her place on purpose. How could they take away the ant colony? Besides, who did she think she was? And she even ordered them. She really didn't know her own limits. Yun Chujio raised her voice again. I'll give you another chance. Hurry up and get rid of the ant colony. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Everyone laughed even harder. This Yun Chujio was most likely not very smart. Would they regret it? In their dreams. Yun Chujio laughed very happily. If they were not kind, then don't blame her for being unrighteous. Yun Chujio whispered a few words to Xue Wuji and the other two, and then jumped in the direction of the ant colony. When everyone saw this, they could not help but cry out. Was this Yun Chujio crazy? Could it be that she wanted to defeat the entire ant colony by herself? Although they had already eliminated a small portion of the ant colony, there were still thousands of them left. Everyone was surprised to find that Yun Chujio had directly charged into the ant colony, and those giant or devouring ants kept shooting ant acids at her. However, Yun Chujio's body not only had a spiritual energy barrier, but also several layers of defensive barrier. Although the defensive barrier kept breaking, that guy seemed to have countless defensive spiritual artifacts on him, and he had actually charged to the center of the ant colony unharmed. She grabbed the ant queen's two antennae and slammed them hard on the ground. Everyone was confused. Could it be that Yun Chujio was planning to kill the ant queen? She was really stupid. Although the ant queen was dead and the ant colony would be in chaos, this ant colony was just an illusion created by the formation. If this colony retreated, there would be a new colony. It was simply a waste of so many defensive spirit tools. Outside the formation, the people from the Chaos Origin sect also shook their heads. This Yun Chujio seemed to be quite smart. Why did she act so foolishly this time? Could it be that she had been provoked too much? At this moment, everyone heard Yun Chujio say to the ant queen, "Little thing, let's make a deal. You guys have been attacking for a long time, but you haven't even eaten a single piece of spirit ore. You guys are really stupid. How about this, as long as you listen to me, I will provide you with the ore to eat." When the contestants heard Yun Chujio's words, they laughed so hard that tears were about to come out. It seemed that this Yun Chujio was really mentally ill. Did she think that the ant queen would listen to her just because she said a few words? Besides, where was she going to get ore to feed the ant colony? No one expected that the ant queen's antennae would sway and actually agree. In fact, they did not know that Yun Chujio had already established a temporary contract with the ant queen. What she said just now was nothing more than for everyone to hear. Just as the contestants were stunned, they saw Yun Chujio bringing the ant queen and the ant queen walking towards Yun Chujio's mine. Everyone thought, could it be that Yun Chujio really wanted to feed her mine to the ant colony? Was she crazy? Just as everyone was guessing, they saw Yun Chujio take a turn and actually bring the ant colony to a mine next to her. The candidate in charge of the mine had a bad premonition. He shouted, What are you doing?" Yun Chujio looked at him as if he was an idiot. "What are you doing?" "Of course, I'm feeding my precious ant colony. Do you think I'm stupid enough to feed them with my own mine?" The man's face turned red from anger. His whole body trembled as he shouted, You're shameless. What right do you have to feed my mine to the ant colony?" Yun Chujio sneered, "What right do I have? You didn't participate in driving the ant colony to me just now. You are the first day of the Lunar New Year, don't you allow me to be the 15th? Stop talking nonsense, get lost. My ant colony is about to eat. The man was almost suffocated by the rebuke. He quickly looked at the other candidates, wanting them to help, but he didn't expect them to act as if they didn't see him. What a joke, who would dare to help him? What if he got into trouble? His mine was enough for the ants to eat for a while, giving them the time to continue digging. Seeing this, that candidate's heart immediately broke down. He cried and said, Yun Chujio, no, Great Aunt, as long as you let me go, I'll give you spirit stones. You just need to say a number. Yun Chujio touched her chin. TSK, you're really pitiful. How about this? I'm not a greedy person. You just need to give me 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Just as the candidate was about to agree, Yun Chujio continued, however, you can't just give me spirit stones. You have to help me mine for 4 hours. The candidate gritted his teeth. Alright, I agree. After Yun Chujio received the spirit stones, she took out a portion and fed it to the ant queen and the ant colony. Everyone thought to themselves, this stinky girl actually fed the spirit stones to the ant colony. She was really willing to part with it. But that was also true. Since it was extorted, of course they wouldn't feel sorry for her. While everyone was watching the show, they didn't expect Yun Chujio to lead the ant colony to the next door to the person from before. She looked at the candidate from the mine with a smile and said, choose for yourself. Do you want the ant colony to eat up your mine, or do you want to make the same choice as him? The person who was threatened by Yun Chujio felt as if his heart was going to explode. Initially, he was just there to watch the show. He did not expect that it would turn into a show now. Of course, he did not want to give in. However, when he saw the dense swarm of ants, especially when he heard the sound of the ants gnawing on spirit stones, he was terrified. It was only 100,000 spirit stones and 4 hours of mining. This was nothing compared to passing the test. Therefore, he handed over the spirit stones and obediently went to mine for Hei Shinjo. Yun Chujio came to the next candidate. Everyone finally understood Yun Chujio's intention. She was not planning to use her mine to feed the ant colony. She was using their spiritual stones to feed the ant colony before letting the ant colony threaten them. This Yun Chujio was really too despicable. Some people also planned to encourage the crowd to fight against the ant colony, but they stopped after hearing Yun Chujio's words. Don't think about fighting back the ant colony. First of all, during your fight, the ant colony will have the time to devour half of the mine. No one wants to be the unlucky one, right? Second of all, even if you beat back the mine-devouring giant ant colony, I can still bribe the queen ant with another colony. If you don't believe me, let's give it a try. Finally, don't think about killing me. Although you can't use the talisman to blow up the ore, you can use it to blow up people. Yun Chujio waved the thick explosive talisman in her hand, her eyes full of coldness. When everyone saw the thick explosive talismans in Yun Chujio's hand, their hearts turned cold. Did this wretched girl sell talismans at home? She actually had so many explosive talismans. However, it was also true. This profiteer must be very rich, so it was not surprising that he had so many explosive talismans. Everyone's little flame of resistance was instantly extinguished by Yun Chujio's words. They could only accept Hei Xinjia's threat. Therefore, Hei Shinjo led the ant colony to run amok. Not only did she earn a lot of money, she also had a lot of free labor to help Hei Shinjo mine. Yun Chujio saw that her mine was almost finished, so she asked everyone to stop digging and help Shui Wuji and the other two mine. Yun Chujio was afraid that she would be teleported out after her mine was finished. If that happened, Shui Wuji and the other two would be in trouble. Therefore, it was better to teleport the three of them out first. Everyone dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. If they were given a second chance, they would definitely not chase the ant colony into this black-hearted territory. Outside of the array formation, the members of the Chaos Origins sect were all dumbstruck. How could they bring such a joke? With the help of so many people, not to mention the mines of Yun Chujio and the other three, even 40 mines would be dug out very quickly. Other candidates came and went, but Yun Chujio and the other three only slept, ate, and had fun. They actually got into the top 4. It was really unreasonable. Elder Yuan laughed out loud. Old thing, did you do something for nothing? This little girl really likes my temper. Interesting. Elder Jing glared at Elder Yuan, feeling both angry and indignant. Which contestant hadn't been toyed with by him? He didn't expect that the little girl had ruined the test this time. No. He had to go back and perfect the 5th round of the test during this period of time. He had to teach this little girl a lesson. In less than a day, Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 had finished digging their mines, and the 4 of them were teleported out. Before He Xinzhou left, she said with a smile, "I'm leaving. If any of you are willing to learn from me, you can do business with the Ant Queen." Everyone was so angry that they were twitching. They wanted to do business with the Ant Queen, but how could they have so many defensive spirit tools to get close to the Ant Queen? Besides, not everyone had so many talismans to protect themselves, okay? After Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 were teleported to the square, the disciples on duty were dumbfounded. Why did these 4 come out so early again? Wasn't there still a few days left? Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and walked to the side of a disciple on duty. "Senior brother, I wonder if barbecued meat is forbidden in this square." The disciple on duty scratched his head and said, "There's no explicit rule that barbecued meat is not allowed here. However, no one has ever barbecued meat here. It's good as long as there's no written rule. It's hard enough for you to be on duty all day. I'll treat you to barbecued meat later," Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. The disciples on duty were very surprised. They didn't expect Yun Chuzhou to do this. The disciples who were sent here to be on duty were basically not favored. Because it was very boring to be on duty here, they didn't have the chance to go to the other square to watch the show. Therefore, even though it was just a small effort from Yun Chuzhou, they felt a trace of warmth in their hearts. After eating a few barbecued meat, Yun Chuzhou naturally became familiar with these disciples on guard duty. They chatted about all sorts of things, and she managed to grasp most of the gossip about the primordial chaos sect. For example, who had a good relationship with whom, which peak master was the kindest, which peak master was the most stingy, and so on. Of course, she also found out that the entire process of their test had been seen as a prank. Yun Chuzhou's expression did not change, but she cursed in her heart. Damn it, they actually played them as a monkey. Well, see. After a full 5 days, the candidates were sent out one after another. When those people saw Yun Chuzhou, they all glared at her angrily, but no one dared to provoke her. Firstly, they were afraid that it would affect the test, and secondly, they were afraid that Yun Chuzhou would do something bad again. The disciples on duty could not help but wonder, are these contestants sick? The little girl was so kind. She would roast meat for them and even give them spirit fruits and pastries when she was free. They must be jealous that the little girl's results were better than theirs. She was really petty. Finally, 3,000 people gathered in the square. Everyone knew that the 5th round of the test was about to begin. Everyone was very nervous. They did not know what was waiting for them in the 5th round of the test. However, one thing was certain. It would definitely be even more abnormal than the 4th round of the test. A certain Jiu was the only one with a face full of anticipation. Was this abnormal test of the primordial chaos sect really fun? Moreover, it could earn money. Come on, come on. 10 more rounds of this test would not be too much. At this moment, the voice from before sounded again. Congratulations on passing the 4th round of the test. The 5th round of the test is a team test. Each team has 7 people. Now, you guys can start forming teams. Yun Chuzhou frowned. She had bet 100 small dried fish that the tester was targeting the 4 of them. 3,000 people, 7 people in a team. In the end, there would be 4 people left. Then, they would have 3 less helpers than the others. It was really bad. As expected, when everyone was free to form teams, no one was willing to team up with Yun Chuzhou and the other 4. Although Yun Chuzhou had a lot of bad ideas, her spiritual power was too low. Moreover, the fifth round of the test had already stated that talismans were not allowed to be used, so Yun Chuzhou had even less of an advantage. In the end, they were all 7 fairies, and only Yun Chuzhou and the others were the 4 great Vitra. The tester's voice sounded again, "You guys can take the corresponding number of jade tokens. As for the group of 4, it can only mean that you guys don't have a good relationship with people. There's no other way, you can only form a group of 4. Yun Chuzhou could hear the gloating voice from the tester's voice. She snorted in her heart. So what if there were fewer people? So what if they were not allowed to use the talisman? They could still pass the test. If they did not believe it, they would have to wait and see. That person continued, "Your mission is to obtain the 7-headed man-eating flower's demon core. The time limit is half a month. The top 200 teams with the most people will pass the test. In addition, as long as one person in your team dies, your team will all be eliminated." Yun Chuzhou frowned. 7-headed man-eating flower? 7-headed man-eating flower, as its name implied, had 7 heads. This kind of 7-headed man-eating flower was very cunning and agile. They had to cut off all 7 flower heads within 15 minutes before the 7-headed man-eating flower would die completely. Otherwise, the flower heads that were cut off would be reborn, which was very difficult to deal with. The rest of the group had 7 people. When that time came, each person could focus on one flower head, but the 4 of them would be miserable. At that time, after chopping off one flower head, a new flower head would grow. It would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to kill a 7-headed man-eating flower. The other contestants had obviously thought of this as well. All of them looked at Yun Chuzhou and the other 4 with schadenfreude. This time, they wanted to see how she would continue to misbehave. This time, they would definitely be eliminated. It was really satisfying. It wasn't just the contestants who thought this way. The people from the Primordial Chaos sect also thought this way. Yun Chuzhou and the others would definitely be eliminated this time. Elder Yuan snorted angrily. He knew that Elder Jing must have done this on purpose. This old thing was really going back to his old ways. He was actually competing with a little girl. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou and the others had already been teleported to a piece of wilderness. There were 7 man-eating flowers scattered across the wilderness. The sunflower-like flower heads looked very pleasing to the eye, but once they became violent, the flower heads would turn into bloody mouths and wind blades would continuously shoot out from them. It was very terrifying. Yun Chuzhou was very puzzled. If the 7 man-eating flowers killed their prey, how would they eat? This fellow was really bored. He took out a wind-edge rabbit's corpse from his storage ring and threw it at the nearest 7-headed man-eating flower. Wind blades shot out from one of the flower heads, and the wind-edge rabbit's corpse was instantly chopped into several pieces. Then, several thin threads stretched out from the stem of the 7-headed man-eating flower and rolled the wind-edge rabbit's corpse over, stuffing it into the flower head. Yun Chuzhou touched her chin. This thing was really difficult to deal with. The most important thing was that this thing only had simple intelligence. She could not fool it. At this time, the other groups had already started fighting. 7 people were each responsible for one flower head. They tried their best to kill the flower head at the same time. Even so, it would take at least 2 hours, or even 4 hours, to kill a 7-headed man-eating flower. After killing all 7 flower heads, the demon nucleus would be found in the root of the 7-headed man-eating flower. The demon nucleus of a demon plant was similar to the inner core of an animal. Since high-level demon plants were rare, the market price of the demon nucleus was quite high. Yun Chuzhou and the others also tried to attack a 7-headed man-eating flower, but they could not kill all 7 flower heads in less than 15 minutes. Therefore, they worked for a long time but still got nothing. They were exhausted. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The group that had successfully obtained the demon nucleus looked at Yun Chujio and the other three with disdain, their faces full of schadenfreude. They did not dare to provoke them in front of their faces, so a few groups gathered together to mock them. Your group also obtained a demon nucleus just now. Congratulations. Congratulations. Our strength is about the same, some groups will be miserable. Yeah, it's their fault for not being popular. There are only 4 of them. The 7-headed man-eating flower is famous for being difficult to deal with. Only the 4 of them want the demon core. Dream on. The cycle of Tian Dao is not happy with retribution. Some people do too many bad things and inevitably suffer retribution. Ha! Yi Bingyu was so angry that her face turned red. Just as she was about to argue with them, Yun Chujio waved her hand. It's just some mad dogs barking. Why bother to lower yourself to their level? Yi Bingyu stomped her feet in anger and didn't say anything. Xue Wuji frowned. He said in an extremely low voice, "Little Jiu, we can't go on like this. We've tried our best just now, but we still can't kill 7 flower heads at the same time. Unless you let out your spiritual pets to help. But if you do that, I'm afraid you'll get into trouble." Yun Chujio nodded and said, "Brother Wuji, what you said makes sense. I'll think of another way. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't want Xiao He and the others to be exposed." Xue Wuji and the other 2 nodded their heads. They were also racking their brains to think of a solution. On the square, when the people of the Primordial Chaos sect saw Yun Chujio and the other 2 frowning, their eyes were filled with tears of excitement, as if they had taken a tonic pill. Ha ha ha. This Yun Chujio was finally at her wit's end, wasn't she? They thought that she was omnipotent. A 6th layer of the Lingxian realm actually wanted to enter the Primordial Chaos sect. Dream on. Elder Jing stroked his beard and looked at Ing Shi with satisfaction. Elder Yuan glared at him fiercely. She's really going back to her old self. Useless. Elder Jing glanced at him. That's not true. I didn't force the other contestants not to team up with her. It's her own lack of popularity that's to blame, isn't it? Elder Yuan was rendered speechless. Yes, this was a free team. No one was willing to team up with them, and no one else was to blame. Humph. However, this old guy must have set up this level on purpose. The 5th round of the test was not supposed to be about this bullshit 7-headed man-eating flower. He had clearly expected that Yun Chujio and the others would be left behind. How cunning. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. The worst of the other teams had already obtained 4 demon nuclei, but Yun Chujio and the others still did not find anything. Yun Chujio and the other 3 were not in a good mood. They could not think of any good ideas. Yi Bingyu gnashed her teeth and said, "If you want to blame someone, then blame the person who was behind the scenes. Wouldn't it be fine if there were 10 people in a group? If that's the case, those people can only be divided into 6 people to be in a group with us." Yun Chujio's heart moved. "Sister Bingyu, repeat what you just said." Yi Bingyu was stunned and repeated what she just said. Yun Chujio's eyes revealed a crafty look. "I have an idea." "What idea?" Xue Wuji and the other 2 looked at Yun Chujio in surprise. Yun Chujio gathered the 3 people together and whispered a few words in a low voice. "This, little Jiu, will this idea work? Will they agree?" Jin Ji felt that Yun Chujio's idea was not very feasible. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. "We can just give it a try. If it really doesn't work, I can only let Xiao He and the others out." When the people of the Primordial Chaos sect in the square heard Yun Chujio say that she had a solution, they were all scratching their heads anxiously. However, Yun Chujia's voice was very soft, so they could not hear her at all. Someone snorted coldly and said, I think that Yun Chujio must be bragging. What solution could she have? Exactly. Didn't you see that the three people's expressions were not too excited? I reckon that the solution she said will not work. Does she really think that she is omnipotent? Pooey. I want to see what kind of tricks she has up her sleeves. On the morning of the third day, Yun Chujio and the other three did not start attacking the seven-headed man eating flower after breakfast. Instead, they began to stroll around. Strolling around was like an outing. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect thought to themselves, didn't they say that they had already come up with a method? Why did they start strolling around again? Could it be that they had given up? Yun Chujia's group of four soon ran into group number 4, who was trying their best to kill a seven-headed man-eating flower. Group number 4's strength was considered average among the contestants. Therefore, they had to seize every second, or they would be eliminated easily. When the 7 people of group number 4 saw Yun Chujio and the others coming over, although they were curious, they did not pay attention to them. They thought that these 4 people might be here to learn from experience. They despised them in their hearts. Even if they learned more, it would be useless. The 4 of them had no way to kill the seven-headed man-eating flower. Finally, 2 hours passed. Team 4 killed the seven-headed man-eating flower and took out the demon core. Hey! How about we talk business? Yun Chujio said with a smile. Talk about what business? The team leader of Team 4 subconsciously clutched his storage ring. This Yun Chujio was full of bad ideas. What business was she doing? Was she going to buy their demon nuclei? Dream on. Don't be nervous, I won't steal your demon nuclei. I'm a scholar merchant, why would I do something like buying and selling by force? Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the 7 people of group 4 all had mocking expressions on their faces. Pooh! You say it nicely, but you're a fucking profiteer. Yun Chujio continued, I watched the process of your fight just now. Although you finally obtained the demon nuclei, it was quite strenuous. I have a win-win solution, which is that we will fight each other as one unit. How about we work together? I'm not greedy. We will split the demon nuclei equally. You get 1 and I get 1. This way, everyone will be happy. Don't you think it's a good deal? The 7 people in group 4 almost spat on Yun Chujio's face. Could you be any more shameless? What right did the 4 of you have to share half of the effort? Besides, who would join forces with you? For weaklings, get lost. Before the team leader of Team 4 could express his firm rejection, he heard Yun Chujio continue, do you think that we are taking advantage of you? Wrong. Very wrong. That's right, we only produced 4 people, but wisdom is priceless. With my help, 11 of us are definitely more capable than 14 people. Think about it, during the first round of the test, when you killed the demon beasts underwater, was it me who gave you the command? Was it 1 + 1 greater than 2? Moreover, the scattered 7-headed man-eating flowers were almost all killed, and the next one might be 2 or even a patch of 7-headed man-eating flowers. How could the 7 of you be effective? Listen to me. Let's form a team first. When we meet other teams, I'll pull them in as well. When the time comes, we can definitely crush the other teams. Do you think what I said makes sense? The 7 people in Group 4 used to be from Region 9. After hearing Yun Chujio's words, they recalled the first round of the test and were somewhat moved. At that time, they had indeed relied on Yun Chujio's command to defeat those aquatic demon beasts. Moreover, they had also relied on her to pass the first round of the test. Of course, they had also paid for it. However, after hearing her words, they had a little bit of gratitude in their hearts. Moreover, what she said made sense. The further they went, the more densely the seven-headed man-eating flower grew. It was indeed more and more difficult for the seven of them to do it alone. When the 7 people in Group 4 were hesitating, they heard Yun Chujio say with malicious intentions, "Of course, if you don't agree, I have nothing to say. Sigh, we are going to be eliminated anyway. When you attack the seven-headed man-eating flower, we will cause trouble. We won't be able to recover, so don't even think about it." The 7 people from Group 4 were so angry that they almost fainted. Just now, she said that she wouldn't force them to buy and sell. What was she doing? She was simply a scoundrel. She was a bandit. The 7 members of Group 4 wanted to argue with her, but firstly, it was a waste of time. Secondly, they did not know if they would be eliminated if they killed the contestants. Therefore, after hesitating for a long time, they finally gritted their teeth and agreed. Yun Chujio immediately put on an angel-like smile. I was just joking just now. We will be comrades in arms from now on. Don't worry, I am a very kind person. I will never cheat my teammates." The 7 people in Group 4 had a mental breakdown at that moment. They were really helpless, okay? It was their bad luck. If they had known this would happen, they would have given up on the seven-headed man-eating flower to stay away from this scourge. Hence, the 2 groups merged into one and fought the monsters together happily. Of course, Hei Shinjio was the one who was happy. It was already good enough that the people in Group 4 did not cry. Not long after, Hei Shinjio used the same method to pull in another group. The people in Group 4 instantly changed from victims to accomplices. For some reason, they even felt a strange sense of accomplishment. Fuck, it must be an illusion. They were clearly victims, so the sense of accomplishment had nothing to do with them. Hei Xinjia's group was like a snowball that was getting bigger and bigger. Moreover, they were very domineering in their actions. For example, when they encountered a group of seven-headed man-eating flowers, Hei Shinjio would use a large kitchen knife to threaten the other contestants. "This place has already been contracted by our joint team. You guys can go play somewhere else. If you don't leave, HMPH, I'll kill you. That little guy gave us the seven-headed man-eating flowers that you attacked halfway. What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll rob you." The crowd was furious at the bandits' behavior, but they did not dare to say anything, because Hei Xinjia's team had a lot of people. Some people left aggrievedly, while others formed teams like Hei Shinjio. Unfortunately, they did not have Hei Xinjia's skills, and the team fell apart in less than 2 days. Hei Shinjio kept all the demon nuclei in her hands, claiming that they would be distributed uniformly. Those people did not believe her at first, but Hei Shinjio would swear on her life. "By the heavens, I, Yun Chujio, will distribute the demon nuclei fairly. If I don't keep my word, I will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Nobody knew that Hei Shinjio was eager to be struck by lightning, so they believed her words. Therefore, Hei Xinjia's pockets were bulging. In the square, the people of the Primordial Chaos sect were dumbfounded. They felt that their worldview had been refreshed to a whole new level. Oh God, so there were so many tricks in the test. What were those people thinking? Why did they agree to team up with Yun Chujio? Yun Chujio and the others had only used 3 combat powers and 1 mouth, but they agreed to split the demon nucleus equally. Were their brains fried? And those people who were forced to give up their territories, were they stupid? Yun Chujio couldn't really make a move, so why were they so cowardly? The originally happy mood of everyone suddenly became listless. They had originally thought that Yun Chujio and the rest only had 4 people and would definitely be eliminated. Who would have thought that they would just open their mouths? Anyway, there was a group of fools who would listen to her orders. Elder Yuan laughed heartily. "Old thing, did you see that? Even if you use your little tricks, you can't do anything to that little girl. This little girl really has a good temper towards this old man. She's smart enough, domineering enough. Not bad, not bad. Elder Jing's face alternated between green and white. This was already the 5th round of the test and there was only one more round left. It seemed that he had to properly plan it out. Elder Jing stopped looking at the shadow stone and ran away. Elder Yuan pursed his lips. That petty old thing. However, it seemed that no matter how sinister he was, he could not defeat that little girl. The little girl would definitely be able to enter the primordial chaos sect. He really looked forward to the days to come. At this moment, inside the formation, He Xinjiu led the joint team and killed countless 7 man-eating flowers like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. Some candidates were tempted and wanted to join the team, but they didn't expect to be sternly rejected by Yun Chujiu. I'm sorry, we're already full. If you want to follow me, please come early next time, a certain Jiu said pretentiously. A certain Jiu rejected these people because she counted with her fingers. Everything had a critical value. If she added more people, the efficiency value would be reduced. Besides, she liked to force people to join the team. She didn't care about people like her. Soon, half a month passed. When the test was about to end, Yun Chujiu distributed the demon nuclei to everyone. Everyone calculated that if they didn't form a team, they would only get half of the number of demon nuclei. Their resentment toward Yun Chujiu disappeared instantly. Of course, everyone was still very confused about the fact that a certain Jiu's demon nuclei were much more than everyone else's. Yun Chujiu had already made an oath. Logically speaking, she would not dare to keep it a secret. Could it be that their arithmetic was not good, so their calculations were not correct? A white light flashed and everyone was teleported to the square. Unsurprisingly, all the members of the joint team passed the 5th round of the test. A certain Jiu's demon nuclei were thrown to the back of everyone's mind. Congratulations on passing the 5th round of the test. Now, the 6th and final round of the test will begin. The results of the 6th round of the test will be the basis for you to become an inner disciple, outer disciple, or handyman. When everyone heard the words of the tester, they were both nervous and expectant. They perked up their ears to listen to what the tester had to say next. This round of test is very simple. You will pass through the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect in turn. The stone pishio on both sides of the mountain gate will decide whether you will stay or leave based on your character and aptitude. The crowd was a little puzzled. Didn't they say that inner and outer disciples would be divided according to their grades? How would they be divided? However, it was clear that the tester was not going to tell them the answer. A white light flashed before everyone's eyes and they had already arrived outside the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect. The disciples on duty lined up everyone in a long line and began the test in turn. Seeing that the disciples on duty were all old acquaintances, Yun Chujiu walked through the back door and lined up at the back of the line. Knowing yourself and knowing your enemy, you will always be victorious. First, take a look at the tests of the people in front of you so that you can be mentally prepared. There was a stone pi shio on each side of the majestic mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect. The sculptures were lifelike. Yun Chujiu could not help but curse, Pui. This primordial chaos sect was indeed stingy. They had 2 stone pi shio to guard the door. Wasn't it only allowed to enter and not to leave? Just as Yun Chujiu was cursing in her heart, the first candidate began to step forward to take the test. The candidate had just stepped into the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect and his entire body was sent flying. The stone pishio on the east side opened and closed its mouth as it said disdainfully, "So smelly. So smelly." The stone pishio on the west side said arrogantly, "This person's character is vile. He is not worthy of becoming a disciple of our primordial chaos sect." Yun Chujiu touched her chin. "Oh my, these 2 stone pi shio are quite interesting. The second candidate stepped into the mountain gate with trembling feet. Although he was not sent flying this time, he was also sent flying by a force as timid as a mouse. Scram! The stone pai shio on the east side said with disdain. A person with small guts has limited prospects. He is not worthy of becoming a disciple of our primordial chaos sect. The stone pai shio on the west side still had an old-fashioned expression. The third candidate had learned from the previous lesson. He mustered up his courage, raised his head, and stepped into the mountain gate. He did not expect that there would be no resistance and that he would successfully enter the mountain gate. His aptitude is passable. He is not too useless, the stone pai shio on the east side said casually. His aptitude and intelligence barely meet the entry criteria, the stone pai shio on the west side said faintly. After that, the process of the test was basically the same. Some were sent flying, some were allowed to pass, and occasionally, there would be words of praise, such as good aptitude and a bright future. Yun Chujio pondered in her heart. She estimated that the allocation of inner disciples was based on the comments of the two stone pishio. To be honest, she was not worried about the previous tests. After all, she thought that her spiritual power was not enough to supplement her brain. However, the two stone pishio in front of her were really difficult to deal with. They were not demonic beasts, so she did not know if they would be easy to fool. Moreover, it was said that this primordial chaos sect had been around for hundreds of thousands of years. These two stone pishio might be even older than the primordial chaos sect, so they would definitely not be easy to fool. Moreover, even if she could fool herself into going in, Shui Wuji and the other two would not be able to. What should they do? Before Yun Chujio could come up with a solution, it was already her turn. Before she could take the test, she heard the voice of the tester from before saying, 500 people are full. The 4 of you don't need to take the test anymore. You are eliminated. Yun Chujio was stunned at first, and then she was furious. What? Are you fucking kidding me? I went through a lot of trouble to pass both the test and the 6th round of the test, but I was already informed that I was eliminated. What a bully. Shui Wuji and the other two were also shocked and angry. They were actually eliminated just like that. Wasn't this reason too weird? Before the 4 of them could say anything, they heard the tester say with slight disdain, "Why? Are you not convinced? If you want to blame someone, it's because you're at the back of the line. Cultivation not only depends on strength, but also on luck. If your luck isn't good, is it because of me?" Bullshit. It's clearly you guys who didn't agree on the rules beforehand. What nonsense about strength and luck. Don't you feel indignant because we passed the test because our spiritual power is low? Tui. What super sect that has existed for hundreds of thousands of years? It turns out that even the entrance test has some tricks up its sleeve. It's really disappointing. Since that's the case, we don't care about entering the Chaos Origin sect anymore. Anyway, the Killing Origin sect is about to recruit disciples. Let's go and apply for the Killing Origin sect. Yun Chujio jumped her feet and cursed. This fellow had already thought it through. If the Chaos Origin sect wanted to deal with her, she would take out the high-grade spirit weapon that Master Bailey had given her. As long as she met Master Bailey, she would have a way to escape. At the very least, she still had the cheap master, Patriarch Yuan Tian. It would scare them to death. Of course, this fellow was not prepared to use her trump card, Patriarch Yuan Tian, as a last resort. After all, she was too weak right now. It might not be a good thing to say it out loud. The tester, who was also Elder Jing, was so angry that he almost fainted after being scolded by Yun Chujio. His head buzzed, and he was stunned for a moment. Since this was the last round of the test, the higher-ups and many disciples of the primordial chaos sect were watching. One could imagine how awkward Elder Jing's situation was. Although he felt that his words were valid, he still felt a little guilty. After all, he didn't want Yunchujio and the others to enter the primordial chaos sect. Master Bailey frowned slightly. He wouldn't have interrupted such a test, but when he heard that Yunchujio was among the remaining 4 people outside, he asked someone to call Elder Jing to him. Elder Jing, although that little girl's words are rude, her words are not unreasonable. No matter what, we should let them take the test. If they can't pass, they have nothing to say. Seeing Master Bailey's words, Elder Jing naturally didn't dare to disobey. He could only coldly say, "All right, since you insist on taking the test, then let's begin." Yun Chujio curled her lips. Indeed, they bullied the weak and feared the strong. People couldn't be too weak. Yun Chujio straightened her back. Just as she stepped into the mountain gate, she heard the 2 stone pai shio say at the same time, "Eh? Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root?" Then, the stone pai shio on the east side said, "What's the point of cultivating the Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root, which is not allowed by the Heavenly Tao? Go back and wait for your death. The higher the spiritual power of the cultivator with the Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root, the greater the risk of being killed by the Heavenly Tao. You are not suitable to enter the primordial chaos sect. Please go back," the stone pai shio on the west side said politely. As soon as he said that, Yun Chujio was pushed by a huge force. Seeing this, Elder Jing heaved a sigh of relief, then, he said sarcastically, "Now, you're finally convinced, aren't you? Do you still want to take the test for the last 3? We're still busy with the distribution of new disciples. If you don't want to take the test, then go ahead." Yun Chujio stood up and rubbed her little buttocks. Then, she said to Xue Wuji and the other 2 in a low voice, "You guys go and try. If you pass, I have my own way to get in." Xue Wuji nodded and stepped into the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect. He did not expect to walk in unimpeded. The stone pai shio on the east side said, "Although the spiritual power is too low, it is a mutated wind spirit root. It is not bad." The stone pai shio on the west side gave a much better evaluation. A mutated wind spirit root is indeed hard to come by. If you cultivate diligently, you will definitely be able to build up your strength. Xue Wuji himself did not expect him to pass. He could only return to the team and wait for Jin Ji and Yi Binjia's test results. Jin Ji steadied her mind and stepped into the mountain gate. The 2 stone pishio did not give her a high evaluation, but they still allowed her to enter the mountain gate. Yi Bingyu saw that Xue Wuji and Jin Ji had passed successfully, and she became even more nervous. Could she do it? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Xue Wuji did not need to say much. Jin Ji had absorbed the golden light from Little Bei's face, so her aptitude was much better than an ordinary person. However, Yi Bingyu was only an ordinary person. It would be difficult for her to pass, so she had to help. Therefore, when Yi Bingyu stepped into the mountain gate and the 2 stone pishio on both sides were about to test it, a certain Jiu cried out, "Io! I just realized that you guys are actually 2 pishio. You guys are actually divine beasts. Heavens, I heard that pishio are the most auspicious divine beasts and can attract wealth and ward off evil. No wonder the primordial chaos sect placed you guys at the mountain gate. TSK, you guys are really loyal. You guys have been guarding here for hundreds of thousands of years, right? It's really admirable." As the stone beasts guarding the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect, no one had ever dared to blaspheme them. Naturally, no one dared to speak to them, let alone such flattery. Therefore, the 2 stone pai shio were a little dumbfounded. While they were in a daze, Yi Bingyu had already passed through the mountain gate. The 2 stone pai shio naturally didn't want to admit that they had been distracted just now, so they gave 2 vague comments. They were nothing more than average aptitude, and diligence could make up for clumsiness. Elder Jing didn't have a bad impression of Xue Wuji and the other two. After all, the bad things were all done by Yun Chuzhou, as long as she didn't get in. Just as Elder Jing was about to announce the end of the test, he saw that the little girl actually shamelessly stepped into the mountain gate again. Elder Jing couldn't help but sneer. Even if she tried 100 times, it would be useless. The two stone Pishio were the most stubborn and wouldn't change their minds. Master Bailey and the others also thought the same. This little girl really didn't know her limits. If she did this, she might anger the two stone Pishio. The two stone Pishio were indeed angered. First, Yun Chuzhou barged in again. Second, because of her interference, they let Yi Bingyu in without testing. The two stone Pishio were prepared to teach Yun Chuzhou a lesson. At the very least, they would send her hundreds of feet away. Just as the two stone Pishio were about to make their move, they suddenly felt an aura that they had not felt for a long time. It was the aura of their master. Only then did they realize that the little girl was holding a ring in her hand. It was the sect leader ring of the founding ancestor of the primordial chaos sect. Back then, this ring had been passed on to Patriarch Yuan Tian as the sect leader token. However, with Patriarch Yuan Tian's disappearance, this ring had disappeared. They did not expect it to fall into the hands of this little girl. The two stone Pishio were stubborn. They didn't care how Yun Chuzhou had obtained the sect leader's keepsake. In their eyes, this little girl was their new master. Thus, not only did they not send Yun Chuzhou flying, but they also didn't do anything about it. Furthermore, the two stone Pishio actually said in unison, "Her aptitude is excellent. She can be considered an immortal essence, heaven's pride." Elder Jing, Master Bailey, everyone, were these two stone Pishio mad, or were they bribed by the little girl's flattery? Why did they have two completely opposite attitudes in such a short period of time? This guy touched his chin. Needlework was definitely to help make the sect's clothes. It was boring. Planting was definitely to plant spiritual fields. It was not interesting. Cleaning and strength were obviously to do hard labor. Not good. Cooking was not bad, but she had already made a fire-burning girl. She really did not want to do it again. Why didn't she refine pills or talismans? Obviously, there were people who had the same question as Yun Chuzhou, so they asked Manager Tang, why aren't there two options that are good at refining pills and talismans? Manager Tang said with slight sarcasm, both alchemists and talisman masters are served by outer sect disciples. How can it be your turn to be a handyman? The person who asked the question blushed, and the rest of the people also looked embarrassed. They once again felt the gap, and in the future, the gap would become bigger and bigger. Yun Chuzhou did not have the time to pity the autumn and the moon. She asked Xue Wuji and the other two in a low voice about their plans. Xue Wuji said in a low voice, "Brother, I'm not good at anything. Whatever you choose, I'll follow you." Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu also nodded repeatedly. They had grown up in luxurious clothes and were not familiar with these chores, so they could only follow Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou frowned. She originally wanted to choose culinary skills, but when she thought of the fact that it was not good for cultivation if she did not rest all day in the kitchen, she blinked her eyes and decided to plant it. This fellow thought very simply. If it was not better, he would ask Go Weiba for some liquid, dilute it, and sprinkle it in the spiritual field to ensure that everything would grow well. That's right, let's do it. Thus, Yun Chuzhou stood behind the planting sign. Xue Wuji and the other two also stood behind the planting sign. After a moment, everyone had chosen their places. Steward Tang began to announce their respective destinations. In the end, only Yun Chuzhou and the other three were left. Steward Tang frowned. All the spiritual fields have been allocated. How about this, you guys go to the big kitchen first. When you have time to come down to the spiritual fields, I will transfer you over. Yun Chuzhou felt as if she had been bawled by a dog. What kind of bad karma was this? She did not expect to be thrown into the big kitchen in the end. With no other choice, Yun Chuzhou and the other three could only follow everyone to the big kitchen. The Chaos Origin sect had 7 peaks. They were named after the Big Dipper. Tianshu Peak, Tianxian Peak, Jianji Peak, Migres Peak, Yuhan Peak, Kaiyang Peak, and Yaoguan Peak. Tianshu Peak was the main peak, while the other 6 peaks were subordinate peaks. Naturally, there were plenty of infighting and feuds. As the saying went, where there were people, there would be disputes. Hence, the Chaos Origin sect was very lively. The 7 peaks had their own canteens, but these canteens only served food for outer sect disciples and above. As for the big kitchen that Yun Chuzhou and the others went to, it only served food for odd job workers. The good chefs in the big kitchen might be transferred to the small dining halls of the peaks, and the corresponding treatment would be better. Therefore, the big kitchen was also full of intrigue. As soon as Yun Chuzhou and the others arrived at the big kitchen, they were caught in a fierce battle. 2 big and strong chefs were holding spatulas and beating each other up. There were also their supporters cheering for them. Yun Chuzhou found out from the disciple on duty that each chef had around 10 helpers in the kitchen, such as the helpers, the cooks, the washers, and the cutters. They were both in good times and bad, therefore, they naturally formed a group. The disciple of the General Affairs Department who led the laborers over shouted unhappily, "Senior Brother Song, Senior Brother Luo, what are you doing? I've sent you a new helper." The 2 chefs finally stopped and spat at each other. They spoke a few words of flattery to the disciple. After the disciple left, the 2 of them began to size up the new servants. The 2 of them fought over the question of who would choose first. Then, Fatty Song took the upper hand and chose 5 servants first. Fatty Luo had no choice but to choose 5 more servants from the remaining people. In the end, Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 were left awkwardly. The reason was very simple. Everyone was willing to choose those with high spiritual power so that they could work faster. Moreover, if they had a bright future in the future, they could also borrow some light. Yun Chuzhou was wondering if no one would choose them, then they would not be able to do any work in the future when a skinny old man walked out from the corner. "The 4 of you can follow me," the old man said weakly. The 2 fat chefs spat in unison. Fatty Song pouted and said, "Old man Yao knows nothing except making porridge and steamed buns. The 4 of you are a good match for him. All of you are useless. Ha ha ha." Fatty Luo also echoed, "That's right." In the past, he was the only one who did it. This time, he got a lot of people. It's really good for him. However, those 4 good-for-nothings are only qualified to work for Old Man Yao. Everyone echoed and laughed. Yun Chuzhou treated these people as barking dogs and followed Old Man Yao to the area he was in charge of. Old Man Yao looked at the 4 of them, then he said weakly, "I don't know how to cook, I only know how to make porridge and steamed buns, so I'm in charge of breakfast. I don't have any other requirements for you, as long as you come to work on time. You can leave work after noon. Now you can go to the dormitory to rest. The dorms are at the back. Just pick a few rooms." Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 agreed and walked out from the back door of the big kitchen. Yun Chuzhou mumbled as she walked, 9:15. "Oh my God, doesn't that mean I have to get up and work before dawn? If I knew this would happen, I would have stayed in the General Affairs office. I wouldn't have come to the big kitchen to work no matter what." Shui Wuji and the other 2 were also unhappy. Who would want to get up early? Fortunately, they could get off work at noon, so they had more free time than the other odd job workers. The four of them took a turn and saw a courtyard. They randomly picked 4 courtyards that were connected together and took out the identity jade tokens that Steward Tang had given them before they walked in. After all, the Hunyuan sect was a super sect. Even the courtyard of the odd job workers looked pretty good. It was well behaved and there was no problem for them to live in it. The 4 of them were exhausted after the tests over the past few days, so they took a simple bath and then went to rest. Yun Chuzhou slept until night. After a simple dinner, she went back to bed and continued sleeping. While she was half asleep, Shui Wuji and the other 2 knocked on the door outside the courtyard, indicating that it was time to start work. Yun Chuzhou finally managed to suppress her anger. She got up and followed Shui Wuji and the other 2 to the kitchen. When the 4 of them arrived, Old Man Yao was already busy. Fortunately, Shui Wuji and Jin Ji had been trained by Yun Chuzhou to burn the fire, so the 2 of them started to burn the fire. Yun Chuzhou and Yi Bingyu helped Old Man Yao. The steamed bread noodles were all prepared the day before, so there wasn't much skill involved in making porridge. Therefore, even though Old Man Yao brought 4 new hands, they still did it in an orderly manner. Yun Chuzhou felt that if she didn't wake up too early, this job would have been pretty good. However, for someone like her who was angry when she woke up, waking up early was simply killing her. Old Man Yao simply mixed a few side dishes, and this breakfast was considered complete. After all, the food of the odd job workers couldn't be as exquisite as that of the inner sect disciples. It was enough to fill their stomachs. When the sky was bright, the odd job workers came to eat breakfast one after another. Steamed buns, porridge, and side dishes were placed in front for everyone to take. Yun Chuzhou and the other 3 people were at the side to maintain order. Old Man Yao frowned. Why were there so many people coming for breakfast today? Some of these odd job workers would bring more breakfast every few days. Why were they all here today? Then, Old Man Yao was surprised to find that most of the disciples' gazes were on Yun Chuzhou. Some were curious, some were disdainful, and some were envious. What was going on? Yun Chuzhou's face didn't look good. Of course, she didn't care about these gazes. It was just that this guy hadn't gotten out of bed yet. Moreover, others were eating her and looking at her. Was she feeling very aggrieved? Finally, breakfast time was over. After Yun Chuzhou and the others had their breakfast, Old Man Yao said to them, "The 3 of you, prepare the ingredients for the vegetables to be mixed tomorrow. Follow me and learn how to make noodles." Yun Chuzhou's heart was filled with frustration. She had clearly come to the primordial chaos sect to cultivate, yet now, she still wanted to learn how to make noodles. Could it be that in the future, when they fought, she would smash the other party to death with a large bun? Although she ridiculed him, she still obediently followed Old Man Yao to learn how to make noodles. Old Man Yao placed the flour into a large basin with a diameter of 8 feet. After putting in the flour fertilizer and water, he began to make noodles. Yun Chuzhou silently cursed in her heart. Old Man Yao was so dry, but his strength wasn't small. He didn't seem to have any trouble making so many noodles. After Old Man Yao finished making the noodles, he said to Yun Chuzhou, "Take a basin and start making the noodles. If you can't meet my requirements, start working 15 minutes earlier. If you can meet my requirements, start working 15 minutes later." Hearing Old Man Yao's words, Yun Chuzhou immediately rolled up her sleeves and started making the noodles energetically. What a joke! It would be good if she slept a little more in the morning. However, this fellow obviously had high standards but low skills. Seeing how easy it was for Old Man Yao to mix the noodles, she was miserable. Fuck, it's diluted. Add the noodles. Fuck, it's time to work again. Add water. Oh my, I've added too much water. Add more noodles. Yun Chujia's face was covered in flour. She bared her little white teeth and said to Old Man Yao, "Grandpa Yao, is there a bigger basin? It better be twice the size of this one." Old Man Yao paused for a moment before saying, "In the Chaos Origin sect, seniority is strict. As long as it's a handyman, they will address you as senior brother. You should call me senior brother Yao." The corners of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. Senior brother Yao? To be honest, she felt that this Old Man Yao was even older than Old Master Yi. Calling him grandpa was a little too much, wasn't it? She opened her mouth but still couldn't say it to the wrinkled Old Man Yao. In the end, she said, "Well, I'll call you Chef Yao. If it really doesn't work, you can also call me Old Yao." "Then call me Old Yao. I'm just a chef who cooks porridge and steamed buns, so I can't be considered a chef," Old Man Yao said self-deprecatingly. "Okay, that Old Man Yao, what should I do now?" Yun Chujio pointed at the bowl with the tip of her finger in embarrassment. Old Man Yao sighed and took out another bowl. He divided the dough into two. In just a short while, the two smooth pieces of dough were ready. Yun Chujio touched her nose in embarrassment. There was no shame in having a specialty. Yes, that was it. Old Man Yao glanced at her. "Well, start work at the second quarter of Ean tomorrow." Although Yun Chujio was 100 times unwilling, she could only nod and agree. This fellow had made up his mind. No matter what, he had to learn how to make noodles. He would risk it all for her lazy sleep. It was not easy to make it to noon. After the four of them had lunch and were about to return to the dormitory, Fatty Song walked over with a fake smile. "Yun Chujio, right? I thought about it last night. It's not appropriate for a little girl like you to wake up early with Old Man Yao. How about this? You can follow me from today onwards." Fatty Song had just finished speaking when Fatty Luo ran over. "Little girl, there's no future for you if you follow him. You'd better follow me. As long as you work hard, we'll definitely be transferred to the small canteen." Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. Why did these two people suddenly change their minds? There must be something fishy going on. "What do you mean, Luo? How dare you snatch someone away from me? Little girl, ignore him. He will never leave this big kitchen in his life. You still have a future with me." Fatty Song glared at Fatty Luo, then, he smiled like a flower and said to Yun Chujio. "Little girl, as long as you follow me, I promise to let you do the easiest job so that you can have more time to cultivate." Fatty Song ignored Fatty Song and said to Yun Chujio with a fawning expression. Fatty Song saw that Yun Chujio seemed to be moved by Fatty Song's words and immediately became anxious. "Little girl, don't listen to his sweet talk. He doesn't have good intentions. He's going for your spiritual stones." Yun Chujio suddenly realized that the two of them had caused such a ruckus because of her spiritual stones. It was likely that the two of them did not have time to watch the entrance exam, so they knew about her. However, they actually dared to think about her spirit stones. They were really courting death. Although Yun Chujio understood in her heart, she still looked hesitant on the surface. This caused Fatty Song and Fatty Luo to argue more and more fiercely. In the end, they picked up the spatula and started hitting each other again. The two of them hit each other until their faces were bruised and swollen. Then, they turned around and asked in unison, "Little girl, who are you going to choose?" In the end, only then did they realize that Yun Chujio had long disappeared. "Little Jiu, after those two finish fighting, when they realize that you've escaped, they'll probably be furious," Yi Bingyu said while laughing. Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Those two idiots still want to think about my spirit stones. They're simply overestimating themselves. Anyway, we don't have anything to do in the afternoon, so let's go take a walk around." The big kitchen was located at the foot of the mountain and was not too far away from the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect. Therefore, Yun Chujio decided to take a look at the two stone Pishio first. This fellow felt that although the two stone Pishio were stone beasts, from the testing process, they should be quite intelligent. Moreover, when she tested them for the second time, they changed their words forcefully. It was obvious that they recognized Patriarch Yuan Tian's ring. It was always right to try to get close to them first. Unfortunately, her idea was good, but it could not be realized. Because the two stone Pishio were outside the mountain gate of the primordial chaos sect, Yun Chujio and the others were not allowed to enter and leave the mountain gate as servants. The four of them could only leave the mountain gate embarrassedly. Yi Bingyu sighed and said, "It seems that we are the lowest level of existence in the primordial chaos sect. I guess there will be more trouble in the future." Yun Chujio said with a smile, "It's good to have trouble. I like trouble the most. Let's go. If we aren't allowed to see the stone Pishio, then let's go to the primordial chaos square and have a look. I heard that those people were watching us in the primordial chaos square when we were testing." After about an hour, the four of them arrived at the primordial chaos square. The primordial chaos square was very big. The green stone slabs on the ground had been stepped on for hundreds of thousands of years and were now as clean as a mirror. The entire square was grand and solemn, causing people to respect it for no reason. Yun Chujio remembered that she had gotten her rolling pin in the Linghua sect square, so this guy started to look around sneakily. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything. Greedy Jiu curled her lips. It was a super big sect. They didn't even know how to bury something for their descendants. Bad review. While the four of them were strolling in the square, they heard someone shout, "Hey, those four handymen, come here for a moment." Yun Chujio turned around and saw a man wearing the uniform of an inner disciple standing in the southeast corner of the square, looking at them impatiently. The level of the Chaos Origin sect was very strict. Not to mention the inner disciples, even the outer disciples could order the servants to do whatever they wanted. Therefore, the four of them had no choice but to walk to the side of that disciple. That disciple had an arrogant expression on his face. "Where are the four of you working as servants? Why are you strolling around here? We are the servants of the big kitchen and are in charge of breakfast. Therefore, we took the opportunity to come over and familiarize ourselves with the situation of the sect," said Yun Chujio. That person frowned. "From the big kitchen? No wonder the spiritual power is so low. Forget it, just the four of you. Come with me. Senior brother, what do you want us to do? You'll know when we arrive. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" The disciple said impatiently. Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She was struck by lightning for acting cool. "Just you wait." That disciple summoned his sword and rose into the air. He said to the four people impatiently, "Follow me." Shui Wuji took out his sword and rode it up. Jin Ji took out her sword and rode it up. Yi Bingyu took out her sword and rode it up. A certain Jiu, took out her chopping board and rode it up. The disciple looked behind him and almost fell off the sword. What the hell was this? There was someone riding a chopping board. When they passed by other places on the road, some disciples looked up and were stunned. Damn, the chopping board had turned into a spirit. Some people recognized Yun Chujio and pointed at her. Isn't that little girl the weirdo in the entrance test? She is indeed a weirdo. Everyone else rides a sword, but she rides a chopping board. Don't tell me that the chopping board is much bigger than a sword, and it seems to be more stable than riding a sword. Besides, that little girl is so rich, so the chopping board is probably not cheap. Isn't Mu Wu from Tianji Peak in front of them? Did the Peak Master of Tianji Peak take a fancy to those four people and transfer them to Tianji Peak? Mu Wu landed on Tianji Peak Square with Yun Chuzhou and the other two, and he said arrogantly, Tianji Peak has strict rules. Be honest. If you violate the rules, you will suffer. Yun Chuzhou was puzzled. Why did Mu Wu go all the way to look for them? Why didn't he just look for them at this peak? What did he want them to do? Yun Chuzhou and the other three followed Mu Wu to a lush garden. Mu Wu took out his identity jade token and opened the door, signaling Yun Chuzhou and the other three to follow him in. The garden was filled with golden silk mulberry trees. Every leaf of these mulberry trees had golden veins on them, just like golden silk. Under the sunlight, they looked beautiful. However, there were annoying rustling sounds in the beautiful scenery. Yun Chuzhou took a closer look and saw many silver-white snow silkworms gnawing on the golden silk mulberry leaves. Yun Chuzhou didn't have a good impression of these white and chubby worms, so she turned her gaze to Mu Wu. Did you see that? These snow silkworms are the treasures of our Tianji Peak. There were a few odd job workers who took care of these snow silkworms. Unfortunately, those odd job workers somehow angered the snow silkworms and were bitten by them. Before the sun sets, we must take these snow silkworms back to the silkworm room. That's why I called you here. Don't just stand there. It's getting late. Let's get to work. I'm warning you. Snow jade silkworms are extremely precious. If you hurt them, you'll be punished. Mu Wu said arrogantly. From Mu Wu's words, Yun Chuzhou immediately understood why Mu Wu asked them to come here. Previously, when the snow jade silkworms attacked the odd job workers for unknown reasons, none of the odd job workers in Tianji Peak would come here to look for trouble. That was why Mu Wu would go to other places and catch odd job workers to work. How despicable and shameless. Yun Chuzhou's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness. Since these snow jade silkworms were extremely precious, once they were attacked by them, they definitely could not resist. Otherwise, they would injure or kill these snow jade silkworms, they would be punished by the sect rules. Moreover, these snow jade silkworms would not attack the odd job workers for no reason. There must be something wrong. Mu Wu was obviously using the four of them as scapegoats. Yun Chuzhou thought of this and said indifferently, Senior brother, the snow jade silkworms are so precious. We don't have any experience and can't bear the heavy responsibility. You'd better find someone else. Well, take our leave now. Yun Chuzhou gave Shui Wuji and the other two a look, and the four of them planned to leave the garden. Mu Wu snorted coldly. HMPH, you little handyman, how dare you disobey my orders? Handymen must obey the inner disciples unconditionally, don't you know that? Yun Chuzhou said in an extremely serious manner, I don't know. Mu Wu choked, then, he became angry from embarrassment. Don't be so shameless. You have to do it today, even if you don't want to. If you can't take these snow jade silkworms back to the silkworm room, don't even think about leaving. Without my identity jade token, you won't be able to leave. Yun Chuzhou's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness. Are you going to let us out or not? Mu Wu snorted coldly. Are you still planning to fight? Don't say that you can't beat me, even if you really hurt me, don't even think about it. Is that so? Then we really won't think about it today. However, we can't be bothered to fight with you. Didn't you say that the snow jade silkworm is very precious? How about I kill a few dozen of them? Although we can't escape punishment, your responsible disciple isn't much better, right? As Yun Chuzhou spoke, she took out a large kitchen knife from her storage ring and walked to a golden silk mulberry tree. She picked up the large kitchen knife and was about to start fighting. You dare. Mu Wu couldn't believe his eyes and ears. How dare this servant threaten him? Mu Wu thought highly of himself and didn't even bother to watch the entrance test. A certain Jiu's legend was unknown to him. Yun Chujio raised the large kitchen knife. She cut off a branch. Do you think I dare? The servants of Tianji Peak are afraid that no one will take responsibility for this unlucky job, so you're threatening the four of us? Do you think that the servants are easy to bully? Hurry up and open the door. Otherwise, if I attack again, it won't be a branch. You, Mu Wu's face was twisted with anger. He thought that the four of them were new servants and would be easy to deal with, so he used the four of them as the scapegoats. However, he didn't expect that they would meet a tough opponent. Seeing that he did not move, Yun Chujio picked up a snow jade silkworm and said, "If you don't want to see this little thing break into two, open the door quickly." Mu Wu was so angry that he was trembling. Okay. Don't regret it. Mu Wu knew that Yun Chujio would really mess around, so he had no choice but to open the door. Yun Chujio and the other three walked out of the garden and threw the snow jade silkworm at Mu Wu. "I'm warning you. Although we are servants, we are not people that you can deal with as you wish. Don't provoke us in the future, or else you will die." After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she swaggered away with Xue Wuji and the other two. Mu Wu's face was ferocious. Just as he was about to chase after them, the snow silkworm that was thrown at him suddenly spat out a stream of fluid into his eyes. Ah! My eyes! My eyes! Yun Chujio heard the screams behind her and could not help but curl the corners of her lips. Was he trying to frame her? Seek death. Yun Chujio said with a faint smile, "I saw that the two chefs were very busy, so I went back to the dorm first. I think it's good to follow old Yao, so I won't trouble you too." Fatty Song and Fatty Luo tried to persuade her for a while, but when they saw that Yun Chujio was impervious, their faces immediately changed. The two people mocked and ridiculed her for a while, then left. Not long after, a servant of the two people came over with a fake smile and said, "Since the four of you have nothing to do, go to the back of the mountain and cut firewood. If you can't cut enough for 2,000 kilograms and delay tomorrow's lunch, you'll be punished by the sect rules." A glimmer of light flashed in old man Yao's dim eyes. He coughed and said, "Since the two chefs have ordered, you can go. They'll prepare the vegetables for tomorrow." Yun Chujio nodded indifferently. After asking for directions to the back of the mountain, she brought Xue Wuji and the other two to the back of the mountain. Yun Chujio and the other three thought that cutting 2,000 caddies of firewood was a small matter. After all four of them had spiritual power. However, when they arrived at the back of the mountain, the four of them finally understood why those people were gloating over their misfortune. The back of the mountain of the primordial chaos sect was very big, but the only thing that could be used to make firewood was a kind of iron-skinned pine. However, this kind of iron-skinned pine had a very loose distribution. There were only a few within a mile of the ground. It would probably take a lot of effort to gather 2,000 caddies of firewood. Jin Ji and the other two looked at Yun Chujio. Should they cut or not? Yun Chujio snorted coldly. Even if we cut 2,000 kilograms, they will think of something to torment us. If that's the case, why are we looking for trouble? We can deal with it with some tree branches. Let's go find wild fruits to eat. Xue Wuji and the other two did not follow the rules, so they agreed with Yun Chujio without any objections. The four of them casually picked up some tree branches and put them into their storage rings. Then, they searched for wild fruits at the back of the mountain. They did not find any wild fruits. Instead, they caught a short-tailed wind-blade deer. The four of them started to roast meat by the stream. Yun Chujio had learned from the lessons of the Linghua sect. This time, she specifically looked through the sect rules of the primordial chaos sect. There was no prohibition on roasting meat at the back of the mountain, so she did not feel any psychological burden. The four of them ate and drank their fill. They meditated and cultivated until night time. They did not return to the big kitchen and directly returned to the dormitory. The next day, Fatty Song and Fatty Luo looked at the firewood on the ground that could be counted on one's palm. They immediately began to make trouble. Good. The four of you actually only chopped so little firewood. I think you did it on purpose. Someone, send the four of them to the General Affairs office. Someone will naturally take care of them. Hearing Fatty Song's words, some lackeys immediately came over, wanting to forcefully bring the four of them to the General Affairs office. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Chefs, it's true that we didn't complete the mission, so we have nothing to say. Why don't we use the spirit stones as compensation? What do you think?" Fatty Luo and Fatty Song's eyes revealed a greedy look. Yun Chujio's words were simply too much to their liking. Why did they go through so much trouble? Wasn't it just for the spirit stones? Fatty Luo said with a fake smile, "Forget it. You little girl's spiritual power is low, so it's understandable that you couldn't complete the mission. How many spirit stones are you prepared to compensate us?" Yun Chujio revealed a troubled look. Really? Will the two chefs be troubled? After all, we haven't finished cutting the wood, and it will affect today's lunch and dinner. Fatty Song said, "It's not difficult, it's not difficult. Cutting the firewood was not part of your job, so it didn't matter if it wasn't finished. Besides, there's plenty of firewood in the kitchen. Let alone today, it wouldn't be a problem to use it for 10 days. Fatty Luo echoed from the side, "He's right. As long as you have enough spirit stones, it doesn't matter whether we cut the firewood or not." Yun Chujio nodded. According to the two chefs, since cutting wood is not our job, then there's no way to punish us, right? Why should I give you spirit stones then? Fatty Song and Fatty Luo were stunned. They suddenly realized that they had been fooled. Stupid girl. Don't be so shameless. You can either buy peace with money or go to the miscellaneous office to be punished. Pick one. Go to the miscellaneous office to be punished. I think the two of you will be punished, right? You made a name for yourself and bullied your fellow disciples. TSK, according to the sect rules, you should be punished with a cane. Yun Chujio said as she took out the recording stone and waved it in front of the two of them. You are despicable. The two fatties saw the recording stone in Yun Chujio's hand and immediately understood that they had fallen into Yun Chujio's trap. Yun Chujio's tone was cold as she said, "Chefs, it's best that we don't interfere in each other's business in the future. Otherwise, you can go and ask around and see if I, Yun Chujio, am easy to bully. If you piss me off, well, fight to the death. If the primordial chaos sect can't stay here, well, just leave. It's no big deal. That's right. I have a lot of spirit stones, but I won't give you any because you don't deserve them." After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she raised her hand and smashed Fatty Song's operating table. The pots and pans on it scattered on the ground, making clanging sounds. Before everyone could react, Yun Chujio raised her hand again, and Fatty Luo's operating table was also turned into ruins. Yun Chujio took out a red-feathered chicken from the cage and chopped off the chicken's head with a large kitchen knife. "How is it? Now that you have enough evidence, send us to the General Affairs office. Shall we go?" Everyone looked at the collapsed operating table and then looked at the dripping blood on the large kitchen knife. They could not help but feel a chill down their spines. The soft ones were afraid of the hard ones were afraid of the unreasonable ones, and the unreasonable ones were afraid of the reckless ones. They were all bullies. Seeing Yun Chujio's unscrupulous behavior, they felt a little guilty. Moreover, it was not easy for them to get into the primordial chaos sect. If the matter got out of hand, they might be kicked out. It was not worth it. When the atmosphere was in a stalemate, a weak voice said, "Little girl, don't think about slacking off. Come and make the noodles. If you still can't learn it, you can wake up 15 minutes earlier tomorrow." Yun Chuzhou threw the headless red feather chicken on the ground, put away the large kitchen knife, and followed Old Man Yao to make the noodles. Fatty Luo and Fatty Song were stunned for a moment, then shouted at their subordinates, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and clean it up." Yun Chuzhou pouted. They were just two cowards, and they still wanted to threaten her. They were looking for trouble. A certain Jiao started to run amok in the kitchen from that day onwards. There were fresh fruits and delicious new dishes, she wanted to taste them first. If someone was unhappy, this guy would kill the chicken with a large kitchen knife. The chicken was also helpless, okay? Who did they offend? In the past, someone killed them to scare the monkeys, but now He Xinjiu killed them to scare people. They really couldn't live anymore. Fatty Song and Fatty Luo were so angry that they gritted their teeth, but they didn't dare to do anything to Yun Chuzhou. Besides, Yun Chuzhou only ate and drank, and she didn't hurt their real interests, so they could only turn a blind eye. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Yun Chuzhou started to hear rumors about her being Fan Mingchuan's fiancée, and people from Tianji Peak came to visit her in the kitchen. Among the people who came, there were quite a few female disciples. Their eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred. Obviously, they were Fan Mingchuan's admirers. It was understandable. After all, Fan Mingchuan came from a super aristocratic family, and he was quite good-looking. Naturally, some female disciples liked him. Just when Yun Chuzhou was about to clarify the rumors, she didn't expect Fan Mingchuan to refute them on his own initiative. He said that it was just his word, that he was mentally ill, and that was why he spouted nonsense. He was not worthy of Yun Chuzhou at all, he was just a toad that wanted to eat swan meat. Yun Chuzhou, was that Fan Mingchuan's head kicked by a donkey? Yun Chuzhou immediately understood that Fan Mingchuan had not been kicked in the head by a donkey, but had been beaten by a certain someone. Speaking of which, a certain someone had traveled thousands of miles to visit his daughter-in-law, but as soon as he had sneaked into the primordial chaos sect, he had heard that his daughter-in-law had become someone else's fiancée. How could a certain someone with a short temper endure it? Therefore, he forcefully resisted the urge to visit his little wife. Instead, he touched Tianji Peak and gave Fan Mingchuan a good beating. Then, he asked Fan Mingchuan to clarify immediately, or else he would die. Fan Mingchuan was scared silly. This was the mixed origin sect. This was the super sect, the mixed origin sect. How could someone beat him up in broad daylight? He wanted to say no, but a certain Jiao warned him that if he didn't agree, he would kill the Yi family's mother and daughter. Fan Mingchuan had no choice but to grit his teeth and agree. A certain Jiao finally found her dormitory and sat on the bed, waiting for her to come back. After Yun Chuzhou heard the whole story, she was so angry that she poked Di Baiming's head. "Are you stupid? What if you are found out? I have a way to deal with that Fan Mingchuan. Why do you have to take the risk?" Di Baiming grabbed Yun Chuzhou's finger and raised his eyebrows. "If it was something else, I would not interfere. But that thing actually said that you are his fiancé. I am already calm enough that I did not kill him." Yun Chuzhou thought to herself, "Yes, you didn't kill him. But according to his admirer, Fan Mingchuan probably won't be able to get out of bed for 10 days to half a month." Even the rumors were spread by others. Fan Mingchuan is an inner sect disciple after all. I reckon that there will be people in the sect investigating this matter. I will definitely be the suspect. You should quickly leave this place. The primordial chaos sect is not like other places. It would be terrible if they were discovered, Yun Chuzhou said worriedly. It doesn't matter. My cultivation strength has increased greatly recently. Why should I be afraid of those trash? If I get angry, I will destroy the primordial chaos sect. Di Baiming said disdainfully. Yun Chujiu frowned. She felt that there was something wrong with Di Baiming. Although Di Baiming had a cold and arrogant personality, he was not arrogant. Why was he so arrogant now? What exactly happened? Yun Chujiu found an excuse and left the room. She sent a voice transmission talisman to inform, "Little lunatic, did anything happen to your honorable sir recently? Why did his personality suddenly become so arrogant?" Very soon. Anfeng's sobbing voice was heard, "Miss Jiu, your subordinate is also very confused. A few days ago, your honorable sir's cultivation had suddenly increased a lot, but his personality had become like this. Not only is he extremely arrogant, but his temper is also volatile. It's a good thing that he still cherishes his old feelings. Otherwise, I would have died dozens of times." Yun Chujiu asked a few more questions in detail and frowned. What happened to the pretty boy? His cultivation had increased greatly. Could it be that he had removed another part of the seal? Yun Chujiu recalled that after Di Baiming had removed a part of the seal, his personality had indeed become much colder. Could it be that the reason why he became arrogant this time was because the seal had been removed? Yun Chujiu frowned. She vaguely felt that if the seal was broken again, Di Baiming's temperament would probably change again. Before Yun Chujiu could think of anything, Di Baiming actually walked out openly. Yun Chujiu was afraid of being seen by others, so she quickly pushed him into the house. "Little Jiu, why did you push me? If I saw it, then I saw it. It's just right for me to teach them a lesson and help you vent your anger." Di Baiming's tone was extremely arrogant and arrogant. Yun Chujiu felt that her head was hurting a little. Although his spiritual power was superb, if he let out such a temper, he was simply looking for trouble. Yun Chujiu finally calmed Di Baiming down and said, "Prince Charming, did you break another part of the seal?" Di Baiming nodded proudly, "That's right, my spiritual power is already very strong. If not for the fact that the other party is not weak, I could have brought you with me and we could have been together for a long time." "Very strong. The other party wasn't weak either." Yun Chujiu's eyes twitched. If it was before the change in his temperament, Di Baiming would definitely not say that. Besides, in the past, unless Di Baiming was angry, he wouldn't say anything about me. "Prince Charming, are you hungry? Let's have dinner and talk at the same time." Yun Chujiu knew that she couldn't persuade Di Baiming to leave, so she could only take a roundabout way to inquire about the situation. Di Baiming nodded, "Although there is nothing delicious here, I can still give you face." "Set the table." Yun Chujiu really wanted to kick this pretentious person out. This was even more pretentious than when they first met. It was as annoying as it could be. Yun Chujiu suppressed the primal power in her heart and picked a few dishes that Di Baiming liked to eat and placed them on the table. When Di Baiming saw that the dishes on the table were all his favorites, his arrogant expression softened. Little Jiu really loved him. That shit Fan Mingchuan actually shamelessly said that Little Jiu was his fiancé. Fuck, the beating was too light. As the two of them ate dinner, Yun Chujiu asked indirectly, "Prince Charming, do you feel any changes after your spiritual power has increased greatly?" "Changes? What kind of changes can there be? It's nothing more than chopping melons and cutting vegetables when you're facing your enemy. Entering the primordial chaos sect is like entering an uninhabited realm." Yun Chujiu silently rolled her eyes and asked patiently, "Prince Charming, I'm not talking about spiritual power. For example, my personality. Have you noticed any differences?" "Personality? Hasn't my personality always been good? Why?" "Little Jiu, what do you think is wrong with my personality?" Di Biming put down his chopsticks and asked with a gloomy face. Nothing. I just feel that you are becoming more and more attractive, Prince Charming, that's why I asked. Yun Chujia's eyes sparkled as she said. In her heart, she wanted to cry but had no tears. Di Biming's face immediately turned bright as he said with a smile, so that's the case. I think so too. I'm too conservative. With my high spiritual power, why should I be afraid of anyone? However, although the primordial chaos sect is very weak, I'm still more at ease with you here. I'll come and pick you up after I've killed those damn people. Yun Chujia's nose suddenly turned sour. Although the pretty boy's personality had changed drastically, he still thought of her wholeheartedly. Whether it was his cold and ruthless personality from before or his arrogance now, he would subconsciously protect her. Di Biming saw Yun Chujia's eyes turn red and she started to cry. He immediately panicked, Little Jiu, what's wrong? Ben, what did I say wrong? Yun Chujio smiled and shook her head. She pointed at a dish and said, No, it's just that this dish is too spicy. It's so spicy that my tears are coming out. Di Biming used his hand to wipe Yun Chujia's tears and said unhappily, Since you can't eat spicy food, don't eat it in the future. As long as you want to eat it, this venerable one can help you get it. N. Yun Chujio nodded. No matter if it was cold-blooded or arrogant, her gigolo would always be a gigolo who loved her, pampered her, and loved her. A certain Jiu had a lot on her mind during the meal. It was not a big deal for the pretty boy to become cold and ruthless before, but now that he had become so arrogant, it was not a good thing. According to what he had said before, his enemy was very powerful. He only had An Feng as a helper. If he was careless and underestimated his enemy, it would be very easy for him to get into trouble. He had to think of a way to remind him. However, the gigolo was extremely arrogant now. How could he listen to her words? Di Biming was completely unaware of Yun Chujia's thoughts. He stood up and said, This venerable self will go and see that trash, Shui Wuji. Give him some advice so that he won't keep dragging you down. Yun Chujio felt that her head was hurting even more. Wu Ji's head was an arrogant character. Now that he was facing this even more arrogant gigolo, it would be strange if they did not fight. However, she could also see that Di Biming's personality was a man of his word. She was afraid that she would not be able to stop him. She could only say, Prince Charming, they'll just call Brother Wu Ji over. You don't have to look for him. That's good too. Tell him to come over quickly. I don't have the patience to wait for him. Yun Chujio took out her identity jade token and sent a message to Shui Wuji. Not long after, Shui Wuji pushed open the door and walked in. Little sister Jiu, why are you looking for me? Oh, the busy man is here. I thought you were already dead. Shui Wuji saw Di Biming as soon as he entered the house and continued to belittle him. Di Biming, who was sitting on the chair, grabbed Shui Wuji's neck in a flash and said coldly, You piece of trash, how dare you talk to me like this? Shui Wuji's heart was filled with rage. Had Di Biming gone mad? Yun Chujio quickly pushed Di Biming's hand away. Prince Charming, what are you doing? Brother Wuji is almost out of breath. Di Biming snorted. An ant dares to talk to me like that. He didn't kill him directly because he was thinking of old times. Cough cough. Cough cough. Little sister Jiu, what's wrong with this facial paralysis? Shui Wuji asked Yun Chujio while coughing. Seeing that Di Biming was about to lose his temper again, Yun Chujio could only give Shui Wuji a meaningful look. Brother Wuji, stop joking. Don't you think that Prince Charming is even more powerful than before? Although Shui Wuji was puzzled, he could only agree. That seems to be the case. Di Biming glanced at him. Little ant, you are so stupid. How dare you beg for food with gold in your hands? Although you can't be compared to me, as long as I can break your seal, why do you need to live on in this tiny primordial chaos sect? Shui Wuji automatically filtered out the words, little ant, and, stupid, and asked anxiously, do you have a way to break my seal? Di Biming glanced at him with contempt and then said resolutely, no. Shui Wuji was so angry that he almost died. What was he doing without you? Crazy. Yun Chujio said in puzzlement, idle, that's not right. Didn't you break a part of Brother Wuji's seal with a slap? Di Biming frowned slightly, little Jiu, don't refute my words in the future. I'll let it go this time. If you do it again, I won't be polite. 10,000 divine beasts rushed through Yun Chujia's heart. She suppressed her anger and squeezed out a smile, male god, I understand. I'm not refuting you, but I don't really understand. Please explain to us. Di Biming was obviously satisfied with Yun Chujia's explanation. He glanced at the teacup on the table and a certain Jiu quickly poured the tea for him. Di Biming took a sip of the tea and said, little ant, I only used external force to loosen the seal for you last time. If you want to break the seal, you have to work hard. Work hard? How can I work hard? How can I break the seal? Shui Wuji was at a loss. Di Biming curled his lips. When you encounter an extremely critical moment, or when your emotions fluctuate intensely, or when you encounter a certain stimulation, you can break the seal, of course, there is another way to break part of the seal. However, I'm afraid that a trash like you wouldn't dare to try. Not everyone has the willpower and courage that I do. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched again. She felt that she was quite shameless. She did not expect Di Biming to be even more shameless after his personality had changed. Shui Wuji could not take it anymore. Di Biming. Don't be so weird. If you have something to say, just say it. If you have something to say, just say it. What other way do you have to break my seal? Di Biming was about to fly into a rage when he felt a pair of weak hands pressing on his hands. His anger instantly dissipated and he said absent-mindedly, it's very simple. You put yourself in danger. When you are on the verge of death, your seal will automatically activate. Of course, this method can only activate a part of the seal, and it cannot be used frequently. Yun Chujia's heart trembled. She looked at Di Biming in disbelief. You didn't use this method to seek death this time, did you? Di Biming looked at Yun Chujio unhappily. What do you mean by seeking death? This is called a matter of urgency. If I didn't do this, how could my spiritual power increase so quickly? Little ant, do you dare? Shui Wuji's face was gloomy. Why wouldn't I dare? This time, when you leave, I will go with you. What you said makes sense. Cultivating in the primordial chaos sect step by step is really a waste of my time. Shui Wuji was a top existence in the Tian Yuan continent. However, ever since he arrived at the immortal Yuan continent, he had met with obstacles everywhere. Furthermore, he had to be taken care of by Yun Chujio before he could enter the primordial chaos sect. Although he did not say it out loud, his heart had long been depressed to the point of breaking down. He was a dignified young master, yet he was actually burning a fire in the kitchen every day. No wonder he was scolded by Di Biming, who had a paralyzed face. He was indeed too cowardly. A faint light flashed across Di Biming's eyes, he curled his lips. Are you saying those words out of anger? Leaving this peaceful nest of the primordial chaos sect with this main body? Let me get this straight. The environment where this venerable self is located is extremely harsh. That useless and phone cries 8 times a day. Are you sure you want to go? Humph. You're underestimating this young master too much. The reason why I came to the Chaos Origin sect was to protect little sister Jio. But now, it seems that little sister Jio is the one protecting me. Since that's the case, why should I still stay here and work as a laborer? Shui Wuji said resolutely. Di Baiming glanced at Shui Wuji. Since that's the case, you should think of a way to leave the Chaos Origin sect. I'll bring you along when I leave the day after tomorrow. Yun Chujio looked at Shui Wuji in surprise. Brother Wuji, are you serious? Are you really going to leave the Chaos Origin sect and follow the Prince Charming? Shui Wuji nodded solemnly. Little sister Jio, if I don't have any seals, the Chaos Origin sect is undoubtedly a good choice. However, if I cultivate step by step, it will take a long time before the seals are unsealed. This is too slow. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. When Yun Chujio heard Shui Wuji's words, she did not try to persuade him further. She knew that Shui Wuji had a willful temperament. The past year had indeed been too sullen. She should respect his choice. Moreover, with Shui Wuji by Di Baiming's side, she could at least persuade him a little. She knew that although Di Baiming had become cold and ruthless, he was still thinking of their old friendship. Otherwise, he would not have reminded Shui Wuji. Brother Wuji, since you've made up your mind, I won't persuade you anymore. What reason do you plan to use to leave the primordial chaos sect? That's simple. I've already said that I don't want to be a handyman, and am preparing to reapply next year. I'm just a handyman, so I should be able to pass easily. Shui Wuji said indifferently. Yun Chujio nodded. After all, she was just a handyman, and she had only entered the sect for a few days, so there shouldn't be any big trouble. If it really didn't work out, she could just spend some spirit stones to settle it. The three of them had come to an agreement. Yun Chujio sent Shui Wuji away and then returned to the house. Little Jio, this is for you. Di Baiming handed Yun Chujio a jade token. Yun Chujio took it and looked at it. The jade token was ordinary, and she couldn't see what level of spirit tool it was. She asked in puzzlement, Prince Charming, what is this jade token used for? There is a strand of my spiritual sense inside. If you encounter a life-threatening situation, you only need to crush the jade token and the spiritual sense inside will turn into my avatar. As long as you don't get into a huge trouble, I can help you settle it. Di Baiming had an arrogant look on his face, but his eyes were full of affection and doting. Yun Chujio had never heard of such a divine ability. She looked at it several times curiously and then said, if I use this, it won't have any bad effect on you, right? Di Baiming's eyes flashed and he said arrogantly, what are you talking about? How can I affect you? If it wasn't for the rare jade token, I would have given you 10 or 8 pieces. Yun Chujio was relieved after hearing what Di Baiming said. She saw that there was a hole in the jade token, so she tied it with a string made of heavenly silk and put it on her neck. Seeing Yun Chujio like this, Di Baiming nodded with satisfaction. He naturally would not tell Yun Chujio that using the clone technique once would cause a lot of damage to the original body. As long as little Jio was fine, what was a little injury to him? The next morning, when Yun Chujio was about to get up and go to work, Di Baiming held her down. Don't go. Whoever wants to go, go. How can they deserve to eat your food? Yun Chujio knew that this ancestor was a man of his word, so she could only send a message to Jin Ji, asking her to help old man Yao ask for a leave of absence. She would say that she had a bad stomach. Jin Ji had already heard from Enfeng that Di Baiming had come, so she agreed without asking much. It was rare for her to sleep in, so Yun Chujio immediately felt refreshed. However, when she saw a certain master waiting for her to serve her, a small flame suddenly rose in her heart. Little Jiu, come over and dress this lord. Little Jiu, come over and clean this lord's face. Little Jiu, come over and prepare breakfast for this lord. The bullied 9 originally wanted to resist, but when she thought of the numerous wounds on a certain lord's body, she endured it. This fellow consoled herself that the wheel of fortune had turned. Perhaps when the gigolo undid the seal again, he would become a masochist. At that time, she would be able to turn over a serf and sing. After having breakfast, Yun Chujio and Di Baiming chatted casually. When it was almost noon, Shui Wuji came valiantly. Little sister Jiu, I have already completed the procedures. You must be more careful in the future. If anyone bullies you, remember first. When I become stronger, I will come back and help you take revenge. Shui Wuji was reluctant to part with her, however, in order to become stronger, he could only leave the Chaos Origin sect. Before Yun Chujio could say anything, Di Baiming snorted coldly, Little Jiu has this main body to protect her. Why would she need you to take revenge? Stop talking nonsense and get lost quickly. This main body will send you a message when I leave. Shui Wuji endured it. You're a facial paralysis. Just you wait, I will teach you a lesson sooner or later. When Yun Chujio sent Shui Wuji off, she said softly, Brother Wuji, don't be angry with this Prince Charming. It's because he has removed the seal that his temperament has changed greatly. You must bear with him a little more. In the future, remind him to not let him go his own way. If you can't persuade him, send me a voice transmission talisman. I'll think of a way. Shui Wuji smiled bitterly. Little sister Jiu, how can I be so stingy? Don't worry. I know that no matter how that facial paralysis changes, his core will never change. I'll tell you if there's anything. You have to be more careful in the future. This primordial chaos sect is complicated. Don't be careless. Yun Chujio's nose was a little sore. She nodded and said, Brother Wuji, don't be too anxious. It's best if you can break the seal. It doesn't matter if you can't. After all, you have a mutated wind spirit root. Sooner or later, you will soar to the sky. Shui Wuji nodded and turned around to leave the courtyard. Shui Wuji sighed silently. The seal was bound to be broken. If he did not become stronger, he would not be able to protect his family. He would not be able to protect his friends. He would also not be able to find that damn woman. Yun Chujio turned around and returned to the house. Di Baiming glanced at her. Anyway, you have my clone jade token. It doesn't matter if that trash is not by your side. I brought him away for his own good. Yun Chujio nodded. Yes, I understand. Prince Charming, I want to talk to you. Can you promise not to be angry? Di Baiming raised his eyebrows and smiled. What do you want to say? Are you trying to persuade me not to be so arrogant? Yun Chujio choked and nodded awkwardly. Di Baiming curled his lips. Even if you don't say it, I know what you're trying to say. What's wrong with being arrogant? What's wrong with being cautious? Besides, I'm arrogant because I have enough strength. This is called confidence. Is this called arrogance? For example, all your enemies are as weak as ants. How can you not be arrogant? Yun Chujio really wanted to go up and give Di Baiming 2 slaps, but, she did not dare. After Di Baiming finished speaking, seeing that Yun Chujio did not say anything, he said proudly, Little Jiu, do you think what I said makes sense? Makes sense my ass. You arrogant bastard. Yun Chujio could not stand it anymore. She pointed at Di Baiming's nose and said, Pretty boy, I have tolerated you for a long time. Yes, that's right. Your spiritual power is very high, but have you really reached the point where you can do whatever you want? Can you destroy the primordial chaos sect by yourself? Yes. Yun Chuzhou, alright, forget what she said just now. Damn it, she didn't want to talk anymore. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou pouted and didn't say anything, Di Biming touched her hair with his hand and sighed. Alright, alright. Continue talking. I won't interrupt. Yun Chuzhou took a deep breath. Alright, even if you are pretty awesome, let me ask you, do you know where the lair of the Divine Devil Temple is? Can you defeat the person who tore through the void to save Su Yanran back then? Also, do you have a way to get the Go Weiba out of my body? Can you eradicate that enemy of yours? If you can do what I said, you can be as arrogant as you want. I promise I won't say anything else. Di Biming's expression turned gloomy and he did not speak for a long time. Although Yun Chuzhou felt that saying this would hurt Di Biming's self-esteem, if he did not do so, he would probably go crazy. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. She had finished slapping him and it was time to give him some sweet dates. Prince Charming, I know what I said just now was a little harsh, but am really afraid that you will be in danger if you underestimate your enemy. If anything were to happen to you, how am I supposed to live? Bai Lianzhou looked at Di Biming with tears in her eyes, she looked so pitiful and pitiful. Di Biming's heart ached, he quickly wiped Bai Lianzhiu's tears away. I didn't say anything, why are you crying? What you said makes a little bit of sense. Although I'm very strong, I'm still a little off. I'll be more careful. Sob, Prince Charming, you don't know that you're the strongest and most powerful person in my heart. However, humans aren't gods. It's inevitable that there will be times when we're careless. So it's only right to listen to the opinions of others. Don't you think so? Bai Lianzhou said as he sobbed. Di Biming nodded unwillingly. Yes, you're right. I'll pay attention. Sob. Although Brother Black Rooster and Enfong are much weaker than you, they're useless when compared to you. However, it's inevitable that they'll be smart at times. So, Prince Charming, it's fine for you to listen to what they say from time to time. Don't you agree? Bai Lianzhou apologized to the two who were caught in the crossfire. Then I'll listen to the words of those two useless people from time to time. A certain lord felt that the words of his little wife were very pleasing to the ear. That's right, those two useless people couldn't be compared to him at all. Sob, Prince Charming, I really can't live without you. So, before you take the risk, you must remember that I'm still waiting for you. So, you must think twice before you act, alright? Bai Lianzhou's shoulders trembled as she cried, she looked like she was in so much pain that she wished she could die. A certain Zhou's heart was about to break as she hurriedly said, I got it. I'll try my best not to take risks in the future. Don't cry anymore. A certain Zhou wiped her tears on Di Biming's body and nodded. Yes, I believe that you will definitely keep your word, Prince Charming. I might be too sad and have a headache. Prince Charming, please help me massage my head. Di Biming immediately became nervous. He carefully massaged a certain Zhou's head and asked in a low voice, are you better? Does it still hurt? A certain Zhou hummed, I'm better, but it still hurts a little. Help me massage for a while more. A certain Zhou was so angry that she was sick, so a certain Zhou naturally could not let her serve her anymore. Instead, she became a wife's slave who served tea and water. A certain Zhou was proud in her heart. Little girl, no matter how arrogant you are, you have to be a wife's slave obediently. In the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. Although she was reluctant to leave, Di Biming still left. After Di Biming left, Yun Chujio went to the kitchen to work. Elder Yao did not say anything. Because Xue Wuji had left, Yun Chujio could only become a fire-burning servant again. Thinking of Xue Wuji's matter, Yun Chujio's heart suddenly moved and she smiled. Yun Chujio shook her head with a smile. She really thought she was smart. The gigolo had broken the seal, not lost his memory. How could he have become so arrogant and brainless? He was indeed arrogant, but his scheming heart had not changed. What he said was clearly a provocation. If he had taken the initiative to bring Xue Wuji away, Xue Wuji would definitely take Xiao away, and he would definitely complain in the future. However, now that Xue Wuji had taken the initiative to bring Xue Wuji away, the initiative was in Di Biming's hands. He was really cunning. After Yun Chujio thought this through, the worry in her heart towards Di Biming lessened a lot. Her mood also became bright and beautiful. This fellow's mood became better, and he began to think about his own matters. She did not come to the primordial chaos sect to start a fire. Moreover, she had to wake up early every day. It was really troublesome. She had to think of a way to get out of the current predicament. Yun Chujio looked at the area that Fatty Song and Fatty Luo were in charge of. Each of the two fatties had about 10 people under them. Only Old Man Yao had the 3 of them. They could not even take shifts if they wanted to. Therefore, that afternoon, Yun Chujio picked up the large kitchen knife and began to kill the chickens again. After this fellow killed the chickens, he directly threw the bloody dead chickens at the feet of Fatty Song and Fatty Luo. As he threw it, he muttered, "Aya, this person can't be too heartless. Some people occupy more than 10 subordinates, while some honest people only have 3 helpers. Don't tell me that some people's consciences don't hurt." The chicken in the cage clucked. Was this brat a monkey? Why did she have to go against the chickens? Fatty Song and Fatty Luo were so angry that they couldn't stand it anymore. "Yun Chujio, what do you want? Don't be too greedy." "I don't want anything. Logically speaking, shouldn't the 3 chefs in the kitchen be divided equally among the servants? Why are there so many of you and only 3 of Old Yao's subordinates? If you each give me 2 people, I won't kill the chickens. Otherwise, not only will I kill all the chickens, I'll also kill the rabbit in the cage." Moreover, I knocked on the copper basin and went outside to shout at him. I said that you guys are ganging up to bully honest people and that you want to extort my spirit stones. Shut up. I'll just give it to you. The 2 fatties were extremely regretful. If they had known this would happen, they wouldn't have had any intentions of taking this smelly girl's spirit stones. But now, they had failed to steal the chicken, and instead, they were being pinched by this smelly girl. What bad luck. The 2 fatties each chose 2 useless things to give to Old Man Yao. Old Man Yao didn't say anything, only nodding his head and instructing them to start work at 3 p.m. The 4 of them were drooping their heads. If they followed the 2 chefs, they would still have a chance to go to the small canteen. If they followed this Old Man Yao, they would probably be stuck in this big kitchen for the rest of their lives. Moreover, they had to wake up early every day. They were really unlucky. It was all because of that Yun Chujio. If it weren't for her meddling, how would they have ended up in this situation? Just as the 4 of them were cursing in their hearts, they saw Yun Chujio come over and said with a smile, "Are you cursing me in your hearts? I heard everything." The 4 of them, what the hell? They had already said that they were cursing in their hearts, so how could she have heard it? Because if you follow Elder Yao, you won't be able to go to the small canteen, and you have to wake up early, so why are you scolding me for being nosy? Do you think that all of this is because of me? Although the 4 of them were a little surprised that Yun Chujio's guess was correct, it was not difficult to guess, so they kept quiet with gloomy faces. Seeing that the four of them didn't say anything, Yun Chujio turned around and brought a chicken over. The four of them immediately stopped pretending to be dumb. She explained, "Junior sister Yun, you're thinking too much. We're just not used to it for a while. Actually, it's quite good to be at Elder Yao's place. After all, we're free in the afternoon and can be used to cultivate. Yeah, and we don't need to cook for breakfast. It's not tiring to work." The four of them talked and felt that it was not so unacceptable to transfer to Old Man Yao's place. Yun Chujio held the clucking red feather chicken. She said with a smile, "That's the way to think. The 7 of us are divided into 2 shifts, 1 shift a day. The 4 of you will take 1 shift, and the 3 of us will take 1 shift. You guys are taking advantage of us." The 4 of them were stunned at first, then they became happy from the bottom of their hearts. This meant that they could rest the next day. It was the best. As long as their cultivation could improve, it did not matter whether they went to the small canteen or not. After all, the handymen in the small canteen were also handymen. How could they have the prestige of becoming an outer disciple in the future? "Little girl, are you almost done? Come and learn how to make noodles." A glimmer of light flashed in Old Man Yao's eyes at the side, and in the blink of an eye, he became drowsy again. Yun Chujio clutched her stomach. "Oh, Old Man Yao, my stomach hurts again. No, I have to go to the toilet. I'll be back soon." After saying that, Yun Chujio ran away. Old Man Yao shook his head and looked at the 4 new people. He pointed at a person and said, "Since that little girl ran away, you can come." That person wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This was a sudden disaster. After Yun Chujio covered her stomach and ran out of the big kitchen, Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu also took the opportunity to sneak out. The 3 of them looked at each other and smiled. "Little Jiu, where are we going now? I heard that the library of the Hunyuan sect is very big. Let's go to the library and have a look." The reason why Yun Chujio wanted to go to the library was to see if there were any records of Guai Chao. It was also not bad to look for books on alchemy and talismans. Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu nodded and the 3 of them walked towards the library. There was only one library in the Primordial Chaos sect. It was located halfway up the main peak, Tianshu Peak. The disciples of the other 6 peaks could only go here if they wanted to read. Therefore, there were many disciples waiting in line in front of the library. Finally, it was Yun Chujio and the other 2. The disciple who was guarding the library took the jade tokens from the 3 of them and examined them. Then, he threw the jade tokens to the 3 of them and said contemptuously, "Your sect contribution points are not enough. Come again when you have them." Yun Chujio and the other 2 were confused. What the hell was a sect contribution point? Was it like the academy points? Just as Yun Chujio was about to ask again, the disciple said impatiently, "If you don't understand, then go to the General Affairs office and buy a copy of the complete works of the Primordial Chaos sect. Seriously, why did you come to the library if you don't understand anything? What can you understand?" If it was in the past, Yun Chujio would definitely kill such a clown with lightning speed. Now, she felt that it was not worth wasting her time on these people. She immediately brought Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu to the General Affairs office. She spent 10 spirit stones to buy a copy of the complete works of the Primordial Chaos sect. The sect contribution points were similar to what Yun Chujio had guessed. It was something similar to points. However, the sect contribution points were extremely important in the Primordial Chaos sect. Many places required the sect contribution points. There were 2 ways to obtain sect contribution points. One was to complete a mission issued by the sect or an individual, and the other was the sect's reward. After Yun Chujio and the other two had a general understanding of the situation, they went to the mission announcement board outside the General Affairs office to check the missions that could be accepted. Yun Chujio skimmed through it. Many of the missions were limited, and at the end, they were labeled as inner or outer disciples. There weren't many missions that were allowed for handymen. After all, handymen couldn't leave the sect, and their spiritual power was low. All they could do was some physical work. Yun Chujio finally set her eyes on a mission that Tianji Peak had just issued, which was to raise snow jade silkworms. She heard from the handymen who came for breakfast that Mu Wu was no longer in charge of the snow jade silkworms because of his eye injury. Instead, he was in charge of another disciple. However, none of the odd job workers were willing to work in the mulberry garden. After all, the snow jade silkworms had been restless recently and often attacked people. That was why there was a mission to raise the snow jade silkworms on the mission board, and the contribution points that were marked at the back were 100 points. One had to know that such a low-level mission usually only had 10 contribution points. Yun Chujio weighed the pros and cons in her heart and finally decided to accept the mission. Therefore, she took the identity jade tokens of the three of them and scanned the mission. The mission became dark, which meant that someone had already accepted the mission. As it was already late, Yun Chujio decided to report to the mulberry garden the next day. After leaving the General Affairs office, Yi Bingyu asked in puzzlement, "Little Jiu, if we go to raise snow jade silkworms, what about the work in the canteen? Isn't that simple? We can just spend money to hire people. You have to know that the spiritual energy in the mulberry garden is much denser than in the big kitchen. It's very beneficial for your cultivation. Moreover, the wool comes from the sheep. I just need to get some cocoons to pay for the hire." Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu looked at each other. Was that what Yenghua said? Yun Chujio arrived at Old Man Yao's courtyard and shouted, Old Yao, are you there?" Old Man Yao walked out of the courtyard while coughing. He sized up Yun Chujio and said, "Little girl, do you need something from me?" Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Old Man Yao, this is the deer leg that I roasted in the back mountain, and this gourd spirit wine is a gift for you." Old Man Yao took the thing over, opened the cork of the wine gourd, and smelled it. The wrinkles on his face relaxed a little. "Tell me, what do you need from me?" Old Man Yao, the three of us accepted the task of raising snow jade silkworms issued by Mulberry Garden today. It will last for a month. When the snow jade silkworms have cocooned, we will complete the task. Don't worry, I will hire someone to complete the task in the kitchen. It will definitely not delay your work. Can you please do us a favor? Yun Chujio said with a smile. Old Man Yao's eyes flickered. Raise snow jade silkworms. I heard that the silkworms have been very irritated recently and have attacked several people. Aren't you afraid of being attacked? Old Man Yao, aren't the servants all men? I think the snow jade silkworms are lustful. They won't lose their temper when they see us three pretty girls. The corners of Elder Yao's eyes twitched, he coughed and said, in that case, you can go. However, don't blame me for not reminding you. The snow jade silkworm is the treasure of Tianji Peak. If you kill a few of them like killing chickens, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Yun Chujio giggled. Old Man Yao, don't worry. The snow jade silkworms can't be eaten, why would I kill them if I have nothing to do? It's getting late, I won't disturb your rest, I'm leaving. Old Man Yao waved his hand, and Yun Chujio hopped away. Old Man Yao looked at Yun Chujio's back and shook his head with a smile. This little girl really knew how to cause trouble, he hoped that she wouldn't cause any trouble. The next morning, Yun Chujio went to the kitchen and told the four servants about her idea. Hearing the amount of spiritual stones that Yun Chujio promised, the four servants agreed immediately. Since the four of them could be divided into two classes, it wasn't a big deal to be a little tired. After Yun Chuzhou arranged the work in the kitchen, she took Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu to Tianji Peak. Hey, look! The chopping board has become a spirit. What chopping board has become a spirit? It's Yun Chujia's flying spiritual device. I've seen it once before. She's not working in the big kitchen. What's she doing there? I heard that she accepted the task of raising snow jade silkworms on Tianji Peak. I guess she's going to Tianji Peak. What? Is there something wrong with her brain? She actually accepted the task of raising snow jade silkworms. I heard that all the servants on Tianji Peak avoid her. Even Huaji, who took over the mulberry garden, didn't want to. However, the higher-ups arranged it, so he had no choice but to accept it. Yun Chuzhou probably has money to burn, right? Let's just wait and see. Yun Chuzhou and the other two landed on the square of Tianji Peak and walked to Mulberry Garden. Along the way, they were criticized by many people. Half of them thought that she was stupid, so they accepted the mission to raise snow jade silkworms, and the other half thought that Yun Chuzhou accepted the mission for Fan Mingchuan. Although Fan Mingchuan had said that they were not engaged, everyone thought that there was no smoke without fire. Yun Chuzhou and Fan Mingchuan must have been childhood sweethearts. Yun Chuzhou quickly felt the hostility of some female disciples. Their gazes were like knives as they stabbed at her. Yun Chuzhou found it funny in her heart. She did not expect Fan Mingchuan to have so many fangirls. She wondered if these people were blind. As they pointed and pointed along the way, the three of them arrived at the mulberry garden. The door of the mulberry garden was open from the inside. A man dressed in the uniform of an inner sect disciple shouted impatiently, "Didn't the three of you accept the mission yesterday? Why are you only here today? Hurry up and come in and work." After Yun Chuzhou and the other two entered the mulberry garden, the disciple directly brought them into a room. Pointing inside, he said, "Every morning, you put these snow jade silkworms on the golden silk mulberry trees. Each tree can only put 20 of them, and you have to keep a certain distance from each other. Before sunset at night, put the snow jade silkworms back into this silkworm room and put some fresh golden silk mulberry leaves. I still have something to do, hurry up." After the man finished speaking, he left in a hurry without waiting for the three of them to ask about some important matters. "Little Joe, why do I feel that he wants us to take the blame? There won't be any problems with the snow jade silkworms, right?" Jin Ji said with a frown. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and didn't say anything. Instead, she picked up a snow jade silkworm. After the disciple in charge of the mulberry garden left the silkworm room, he heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally found 3 scapegoats. That bastard Mu Wu clearly did not have a serious injury to his eyes, but he pretended to be very serious and threw this hot potato to him. It was really detestable. The disciple in charge of the mulberry garden was called Huiji. After Mu Wu was injured, he was sent to the mulberry garden. The mulberry garden was originally the best job. Since the snow jade silkworm was the treasure of Tianji Peak, the disciples in charge of the mulberry garden would get some extra resources from the sect. Moreover, the specific work was done by the odd job workers. The disciples in charge were just supervisors, so it was very easy. However, it was different now. Recently, these snow jade silkworms had been inexplicably irritated. The higher-ups of Tianji Peak had asked beast tamers to check on them, but they couldn't find the reason. After all, beast tamers couldn't control adult demon insects, therefore, they didn't know why these snow jade silkworms were so irritated. What was more depressing was that no odd job workers were willing to come to work. Therefore, Huaji had been moving these snow jade silkworms around on his own for the past few days. When he moved them around, he had to be 120% careful to avoid being hurt by the venom of the snow jade silkworms. Unfortunately, he was still attacked by a snow jade silkworm 2 days ago. Fortunately, he had set up a spiritual energy barrier in advance, so he wasn't injured. Furious, Huaji killed the snow jade silkworm with one palm strike. Huaji knew that he had caused trouble. These snow jade silkworms were the treasures of Tianji Peak. The elders would come to check the number and condition of the snow jade silkworms on a regular basis. If one of them was found missing, he would be punished. Killing a snow jade silkworm would not only cost him a year's worth of resources, but he would also have to spend at least 3 months in meditation. After much thought, he finally came up with a solution. Therefore, he posted the mission on the bulletin board of the General Affairs Department. He paid for the 300 contribution points himself, not the official contribution points of Tianji Peak. Huaji's plan was very effective. Those 3 idiots didn't know anything. When the elder came to check on them the next day, he would push the blame onto the 3 of them and clear his name. The next morning, when Yun Chuzhou and the other 2 were about to move the snow jade silkworms out of the silkworm room, Huaji came in and stopped them. Today is the day of the regular inspection of the elders in the peak. Don't move these snow jade silkworms outside for now. Wait for the elder to check them before moving them out. Yun Chuzhou and the other 2 nodded. They went out to get some fresh golden silk mulberry leaves and placed them in the silkworm room. Huaji looked on coldly from the side and sneered in his heart. They were really 3 idiots. When he heard that Yun Chuzhou was very smart during the test, he was still a little worried. He was afraid that Yun Chuzhou would see through his intentions, so he left in a hurry yesterday. Now it seemed that those people were just exaggerating. She was just a little girl. How powerful could she be? After a while, someone called for the door outside the mulberry garden. Huaji brought Yun Chuzhou and the other 2 out to welcome them. There were 3 elders standing outside the door. Huaji quickly bowed. Disciple Huaji greets Elder Jiang, Elder Ding, and Elder Wan. Yun Chuzhou and the other 2 followed behind Huaji and bowed. The 3 elders nodded and then looked at Yun Chuzhou and the other 2. Aren't they the odd job workers in the peak? The 3 of them accepted the task given by the disciple at the odd job office, so they came to raise the snow jade silkworm. Huaji answered respectfully. Elder Wan frowned. What nonsense! They don't have any experience in raising the snow jade silkworm. What if something goes wrong? Aren't there a lot of odd job workers in our peak? Is there no one willing to come? If it's really not possible, increase the treatment. Huaji nodded repeatedly in agreement. Disciple will observe them for a few days first. If it's not possible, disciple will think of a way to replace the odd job workers on our peak. Elder Ding smiled and said, Old Wan, don't make things difficult for him. Right now, almost the entire primordial chaos sect knows that these snow jade silkworms can attack people, so many odd job workers aren't willing to come over. Let's go and take a look at the condition of the snow jade silkworms first. As for the 3 of them, let's observe them first. Elder Jiang echoed from the side, that's right, Old Wan. Let's take a look at our treasures first. In another month, these snow jade silkworms will spin their cocoons. When they break out of their cocoons, they will mate and we will have a few dozen more snow jade silkworms. Yun Chuzhou was puzzled. There were 500 to 600 snow jade silkworms in the silkworm room. Why would there only be a few dozen silkworms after mating? Could it be that these 3 people didn't know how to count? As everyone spoke, they arrived at the silkworm room. The three elders began to count the number of snow jade silkworms. Huaji's palms began to sweat. Although he already had someone to blame, he was still a little nervous about being a thief. Isn't there 601 snow jade silkworms on the register? Why is there one missing? Could it be that we counted wrong? Elder Ding said in surprise. Count it again. Elder Jiang said with a frown. The three of them counted again, but there was still one missing. Their faces immediately darkened. Elder Wan shouted sternly, Huaji, what's going on? How can there be one less snow jade silkworm? Huaji's face revealed a frightened expression. How is this possible? When I handed it to the three of them yesterday, I even counted the number. There were exactly 601 snow jade silkworms. How could there be one less? The three of you, quickly tell us the truth. What exactly is going on? Hearing Huaji's words, Elder Wan's face turned even gloomier. I told you that it's not reliable to look for odd job workers from the outer peaks. Look, one snow jade silkworm is missing in just one day. If this goes on for a long time, what will happen? The three of you are really audacious. Tell me, where is that snow jade silkworm? Did you accidentally kill it, so you destroyed its corpse and erased all traces? Elder Ding and Elder Jiang didn't say anything, but they looked at Yun Chuzhou and the other two unhappily. It was a big mistake to kill the snow jade silkworm by accident, and they were even more guilty for hiding the truth. These three handymen were too bold. Elders, we are just three handymen. How dare we kill the treasures of Qinji Peak? Besides, when we came here yesterday, Senior Brother Hua didn't count the number of snow jade silkworms with us, so we should ask Senior Brother Hua about the missing one, right? Yun Chuzhou said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Huaji immediately stomped his feet and said, You're talking nonsense. I clearly counted the number of snow jade silkworms in front of you yesterday, and it just so happened to be 601. Three elders, if you want to count the number of snow jade silkworms, you need at least 15 minutes, right? After Senior Brother Hua brought us to the silkworm room yesterday, he left in a hurry. How could he have time to count the number of snow jade silkworms? If the three elders don't believe me, you can ask the disciples who were watching the show outside the mulberry garden yesterday, Yun Chuzhou said with a faint smile. Cold sweat immediately broke out on Huaji's forehead. He was in a hurry to leave yesterday and had not considered this point. If he asked, he would be exposed. Elder Ding saw Huaji's nervous expression, Yun Chuzhou and the other two's magnanimous expressions, and had some doubts in his heart. He immediately took out his identity jade token and asked someone to find a few disciples who were watching yesterday to bring them over. Huaji's legs were trembling. Once the matter was exposed, the punishment he would receive would not only be 3 months of reflection. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. After a while, 5 or 6 disciples were brought in. When Yun Chuzhou saw these disciples, she knew it was bad. Because these disciples were all female disciples, and coincidentally, they were Fan Mingquan's admirers. As expected, after hearing the 3 elders' questions, these people said one after another, This Yun Chuzhou is talking nonsense. Yesterday, Senior Brother Hua clearly left the mulberry garden after an hour. That's right. At that time, someone even spoke to Senior Brother Hua. Senior Brother Hua said that he was counting the number of snow jade silkworms, and he also told them some things to take note of. Yes, that's right. I can also prove it. Hearing their words, Huaji heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, the expression on his face also became aggrieved and angry. 3 elders, you all heard it, right? This Yun Chuzhou made a mistake, yet she still wants to bite back. It's really too sinister. I hope the three elders can uphold justice for this disciple. Elder Wan flew into a rage. This is truly outrageous. What else do the three of you have to say? Men, send the three of them to the law enforcement office. Tell them that my suggestion is to remove their names. Our primordial chaos sect does not allow such scum to exist. Elder Ding and Elder Jiang exchanged a glance. Elder Ding said, Old Wan, this punishment is a little heavy, right? Normally, killing a snow jade silkworm should be punished with less than a year's worth of resources. Furthermore, they should be locked up in meditation for 3 months. Humph. But after they made a mistake, not only did they hide the truth, but they also slandered their fellow disciples. They must be punished severely to prevent others from doing the same, Elder Wan said angrily. Hearing his words, Elder Ding and Elder Jiang didn't say anything, although they still felt that it was a bit heavy. After all, they were just 3 odd-job workers, and they weren't from Tianji Peak. If they were expelled from the sect, so be it. The female disciples who testified showed gloating expressions. Damn it! Who asked Yun Chuzhou to charm Senior Brother Fan? Let's see how she can seduce Senior Brother Fan this time. Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu weren't worried when they saw Yun Chujia's confident look. However, when they saw that Elder Wan had convicted them, they panicked and looked at Yun Chuzhou nervously. At this time, there were already disciples who wanted to bring the 3 of them to the law enforcement office. Yun Chuzhou curled the corners of her lips. Wait. I have something to say. Elder Wan frowned. What else do you have to say? Elders, I have a witness that can prove who killed the missing snow jade silkworm, Yun Chuzhou said slowly. Everyone was stunned. Hua Ji's heart trembled and he immediately relaxed. This Yun Chuzhou must be spouting nonsense. When he killed the snow jade silkworm, he was the only one in the mulberry garden. How could there be a witness? Elder Wan frowned. You have a witness? Who is your witness? Are you trying to stall for time? Yun Chuzhou smiled faintly. She turned around and pointed at the silkworm room behind her. The snow jade silkworm in the silkworm room is my witness. When their companion died, they naturally saw it with their own eyes. Therefore, wouldn't it be more direct to have them directly identify the murderer? Everyone was stunned at first, then the female disciples began to giggle. Yun Chuzhou, are you out of your mind? Although the snow jade silkworm are demonic insects, they have been domesticated by humans for many generations. They are different from those demonic insects in the wild. They don't have a silkworm king, so they don't have group consciousness. How could they identify the murderer? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.